Chapter 1065. On the surface, his publicity strategy seemed to have worked very well. His crazy actions even triggered a catfish effect, causing a chain reaction on the internet in Europe and the United States. Not only did the news media and public relations companies who had taken money from the Tianguang Group, but even some celebrities in Europe and the United States, who had nothing to do with him, expressed their views on this matter. Celebrities in the European and American entertainment circles, whether they were in the film, television, pop music, or variety circles, all took the initiative to get involved. Although most of these people expressed that they only treated Chen Guang, the Huaxia man's shameless and crazy actions, as a joke, whether they praised or criticized him, they added a free fire to this matter. Overnight, not only in Los Angeles, but also in the entire North American online world, almost everyone knew about this matter. After UBC, the TV station that took money to do things, made a positive publicity, many TV stations immediately jumped out and fiercely attacked Chen Guang from a negative angle, because he didn't take the money to do the work. The same news even crossed the Atlantic Ocean and spread to another continent, causing a big sensation in Europe. In London, Milan, Paris, Cannes, Florence, and Munich, these palaces of fashion and modern films, countless people stood up to support their film art and defend the dignity of the film industry. Chen Guang's arrogant and overly purposeful actions were like pouring molten iron into a basin of water. It instantly turned the entire film industry upside down, and the entire European and American entertainment circles were boiling. Everything was as Chen Guang had expected at the beginning. The news was basically negative. After all, there were too many angles that could be used to attack him for the Oscars with women. There were so many angles that he couldn't even count them himself. Everyone could find 10,000 reasons to express their disdain and ridicule towards him. But it didn't matter. He didn't care at all. And he didn't have the energy to care anymore. Even if it seemed that he had become the enemy of the world, he didn't care. It was just an ordinary Oscar Best Actor, which had never been his goal. How many Oscars had been held, and how many Best Actors had been born? How many people had won the Best Actor award more than once, or even 3 times? But no one had ever dared to bear the title of the world's Best Actor award. They didn't even dare to think about it, or even mention it. It was precisely because the essence of the performing arts was art. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It was too difficult to quantify, and it was too difficult for people to unreservedly acknowledge it. There would always be lingering disputes. Even if it was last year's Best Actor Xiao Li, if he dared to say such words, he would immediately fall off the altar and spend the rest of his life in the ridicule and contempt of the world. If it was possible, Chen Guang also wanted to consolidate his position through a few consecutive championships. At the very least, he wouldn't attract such a terrifying criticism. Unfortunately, the heavenly Holy Grail did not give him much time. He was destined to be unable to follow the thinking and model of ordinary people to complete his career. He had to first make enemies of the whole world, in order to make himself stand on the opposite side of all criticism. When the whole world is doubting me, and despising me, it is also when the whole world's attention is focused on me. Only at this moment, when I am in the center of the whirlpool, can I use my irresistible power to instantly shatter all the dark clouds covering my head. The employees of Tianguang Group knew how crazy their boss was, but with their realm and vision, they would never be able to understand where Chen Guang's madness came from. When the public opinion on the internet further spread back to the country, the negative effects even affected the promotion of the movie in the country. Gradually, voices came from Europe and America. Silently, a new concept appeared on the internet. All filmmakers and film lovers today, when the film industry is suffering the greatest humiliation, must unite and boycott this despicable and shameless Chinese internet celebrity. What do you take the Oscars for? What do you take movies for? What do you take art for? The cabbages in your backyard? The toys you buy for babies and children? You can control everything with money? Furthermore, you're not particularly rich. Even Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett don't have such power. Who do you think you are? The son of Nike's chairman Travis Knight is worth tens of billions of US dollars. In order to fulfill his movie dream, he finally came up with Legend of the Magic String. He only received a nomination, but he didn't even stand on the podium. He has more money than you, has more dreams than you, and is more focused than you. Even he doesn't dare to talk nonsense like this. Who do you think you are? So what if you have great achievements in other fields? You haven't even brought out your movie. You've only acted in an outdated play, Thunderstorm. How do you have the face to fight for the Oscars? Every filmmaker, every person who loves movies. If you still have dreams, if you still have perseverance, if you don't want to see the greatest art since mankind entered the 20th century become a joke, unite. Boycott him. Reject his news. Reject his hype. Reject his topics. Even refuse to talk about him. Most importantly, you have to reject his movie. Even if he gives you a free ticket, you have to throw it into your husky's kennel. Even a husky won't watch his movie. The voices grew louder and louder, crossing the Atlantic Ocean from North America to Europe, then crossing the time difference to rush to Asia and back to China. There was also an uproar in China. People in the world always had their own opinions. Chen Guang's diehard fans, of course, spared no effort to stand up for him. But there were still all kinds of debates on the internet. Some people said that he had embarrassed himself abroad. Others said that before you scold him, look at his past, look at his achievements. What right do you have to doubt him? You don't even deserve to carry his shoes. Others said that those who say such ignorant words don't understand movies, don't understand acting, and lack a basic outlook on life. They are all brainless young people who haven't matured yet. This is the standard. If you can do it, then do it. If I can't refrigerate, then I can't scold the fridge? Others said that you just can't bear to see the Chinese struggle for their dreams. When the whole world is criticizing and mocking him, why can't we, who have the same yellow skin and black hair as him, give him a touch of warmth when the whole world is throwing cold knives at him? Even if he fails in the end, isn't his dream of becoming the first Chinese best actor in history great? People like you who don't have dreams don't have the right to laugh at his dream. Others said that you idiots only know how to talk on the internet. If you want to support his dream, then go vote for the Oscars. Do you even have the right to vote? Anyway, we originally planned to watch this movie for Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage. But now forget it, we can't afford to lose face. All kinds of thoughts were fermenting on the internet, and in reality, boiling like a pot of thick soup. In the long history of the Oscars for nearly 90 years, there had never been a movie that had caused such a shocking criticism and rejection before it had even been nominated. Although the entertainment circle had a tradition of demonizing people, there had never been a movie that had caused such a stir. It was something that had nothing to do with people's simple lives. However, all of a sudden in China, it had become a show of support and mockery for their countrymen. Overseas, it had become the bottom line to defend the movie. This matter had completely surpassed the scope of the movie itself. With such a terrifying wave of public opinion, even Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang, the initiators, felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They had thought that there would be a backlash, but they had never dreamed that it would be so strong. Even if they stood on the street in Los Angeles and looked up at the sky, they could still feel the invisible pressure that filled the sky and the earth. Yu Hong stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the 15th floor of the Lida building in Wujing City, looking at the cars passing by. He also furrowed his brows. He didn't know what his boss, who was in Los Angeles, would think when he saw what we had done. We messed things up. Will he go crazy? Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang stood in front of the door of Chen Guang's hotel room, pacing back and forth. They didn't even dare to knock on the door, let alone report the situation to Chen Guang. The more explosive the public opinion was, the more frightened they were. However, the ugly daughter-in-law had to meet her parents-in-law. They couldn't hide it for long. Their boss was also writing an article on his computer. He liked to browse Weibo, so how could he not see the situation? Forget it. If he died, then so be it. The two gathered their courage and were about to knock on the door when Chen Guang's door suddenly opened. You two have been hanging around the door for almost 10 minutes, right? Who lost money? Did you find it? Chen Guang rolled his eyes at them. Come in quickly. If you have something to say, just say it. I'm busy here. Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu anxiously followed him. They were worried that Chen Guang would suddenly slap them in the face. Boss, we are here to report the situation. Chen Guang, who had just sat in front of the computer and took a sip of tea, put down the cup and turned around. All right, let's improve our efficiency. I just want to ask you one thing. Did you complete the things you wrote in the proposal? The two nodded at the same time. Yes. Chen Guang took another sip of water. Since it's all done, what else is there to report? Let's continue with the original plan. Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath. But boss, the situation is getting out of control. Feng Tianyu's scalp hardened. With the determination to die, he said loudly, That's right. We were too impatient for success. Everyone knows our purpose. They also know that this is your first movie. They also know the original position of the movie heroine. The development of the public opinion is completely out of our control. Now, even if we spend $200 million, we can't suppress the negative and criticism, let alone $40 million. Lu Xiaoyang nodded heavily and almost shouted, That's right, boss. This time, you might really have the whole world as your enemy. The whole world as your enemy. Didn't you check Weibo? Chen Guang was stunned for a moment, and then he came back to his senses. I just checked the website half an hour ago, and I thought you had something new to report. But it turns out to be this lousy matter? Lu Xiaoyang was shocked. Boss, you call this lousy matter? Chen Guang shrugged. Of course. If this isn't lousy matter, then what is? You don't say. My dad just called and scolded me. Feng Tianyu could not help but ask. What did he say? Chen Guang wore a fearful expression as he continued. You've scolded me to the point that I nearly disregarded my son. Lu Xiaoyang said embarrassedly. Uncle Chen must be joking, right? Chen Guang returned to his calm look. That's right. He was joking. Feng Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang looked at each other. What time was it? Boss, why are you still panting while talking? What's wrong with you? Chapter 1066. Boss, what should we do now? Do we need to get more people to use some special methods? Lu Xiaoyang hinted that Chen Guang had some special channels and connections in China. At the very least, Lu Xiaoyang knew that Chen Guang had some connections in China. At the very least, he could stabilize the public opinion in China. Feng Yu can't care about the North American box office and the Oscars anymore. He must at least protect the Chinese box office. However, he never expected that Chen Guang would already be sitting before his computer and typing on the keyboard. Nothing much. We'll just follow the original plan and do what needs to be done. Since we have prepared $40 million, we will continue to spend it. It doesn't matter if people scold me or support me. They are giving us free publicity, and we don't need to thank them. Feng Yu stopped talking after that. Normally, he wouldn't mind messing around with the two of them, but World School of Performing Arts was a difficult book to write. He understood everything in his head, but he had to write from simple to deep, and from deep to simple, so that others could understand and learn it. It is not easy for Feng Yu to construct a knowledge system for others to learn and understand. Chen Guang's theory is more than 10 times better than Stanislavski's performing arts system. Feng Yu's time is tight, and he must make every sentence in his book concise. He must use the least amount of words to express the deepest meaning. If he wasn't an invincible language master, who was proficient in 4,987 languages, he wouldn't have been able to do it. Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu looked at each other, and then at Chen Guang, who is as calm as a Zen monk. They were speechless for a while. Does Feng Yu not know what is going on? Of course, Feng Yu knows the tricks of the public. Feng Yu had worked his way up to where he is today, because of the controversy of the public opinion. He started by going against his school's vice principal, Su Lijing, and then became an online anchor. After that, Zhuo Wei tried to cause trouble for him with 8 magazine. In the end, Chen Guang even got Tianguang management to send legal letters to countless media outlets and marketing accounts. No matter from which angle one looked at it, Chen Guang could be considered as a master of public opinion. He cares about his reputation and is good at reversing the criticism. More often than not, he could see through the situation at a glance. He knew what kind of response and preparation would be the most effective under the circumstances of public opinion. He used to be a person with a good reputation who would easily lose his temper. But why did he become so calm this time? What is Feng Yu thinking? The situation outside is so chaotic, but he's still expressionless and unmoving like a mountain, allowing us to continue advancing according to the existing track? He does not care about the criticism. At this moment of life and death, with the whole world as his enemy, he could still sit here calmly and write his monograph. How big does his heart have to be to do that? The two finally understood why Feng Yu is Feng Yu, and why Chen Guang, who looks like a clown, can endure all the pressure and get to where he is today. Because under this clown's appearance, there is a big heart that can contain the whole world. He would never be knocked down. Come to think of it, up until now, everything he had done had always been to set a goal, and then carry it out in an extremely thorough and crazy manner. Even if those who stood in his way were often the world's top experts and experts from all walks of life, and even if there were countless people who doubted his ability, he had never doubted or wavered in his own ability. It is the same this time. The two clenched their fists. Damn, following such a boss, we can only accompany him in his craziness. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it is the third day. After 48 hours of preparation and criticism, Tianguang Group, the supernova that revolves around Chen Guang, did not stop. In fact, it continued to advertise even more intensely. Posters of women sprang up like mushrooms after a spring rain from Los Angeles on the west coast to Miami on the east coast. One after another, TV stations prostrated themselves under the attack of the US dollar and became his mouthpiece. This is the advantage of living in a democratic land. Even if you know that you are risking universal condemnation, as long as you have money, the media will always be able to make a voice that is not in harmony with the general public. The people of Demi are only boycotting Chen Guang. They will not boycott the media that took Chen Guang's money to speak for him. Other than the TV stations, YouTube, who has worked closely with him in the past, unexpectedly chose to stand on his side at this time. YouTube even paid out of its own pocket to do publicity. At the same time, it prepared several channels to play videos of some of the events he has participated in or organized in the past, as well as the most important evidence of his acting skills, the live video of the play Thunderstorm. He had no idea where YouTube managed to find such a treasure. The crazed leader of the livestream industry had actually recreated the video of Chen Guang's masked participation in the Xiangjiang car gambling competition into an even more exquisite feature documentary. Other than that, this leader of social media also chose to stand on the same side as Chen Guang. Although it did not suppress the voices that boycotted Chen Guang, it was doing the same thing as YouTube, promoting him for free. The greatest racer in the history of mankind. The most perfect fighting machine since the birth of esports. The undisputed master of miniature sculpture. The master of piano performance that can turn back time by reproducing the original sound. The king of darts who used his own strength to completely subvert the darts competition. The incredible master of human linguistics. The great pilot who used his own strength to improve human flying skills by several levels. The winner of the Civil Aviation Hero Medal. These were Chen Guang's achievements that could be compiled into a book. They were even made into feature reports one after another, and spread wildly on social media sites for free. Even Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoliang were confused. Their own publicity budget was not enough to support advertising on these two leaders. The confusion of the two was not solved until they received a call from Tang Xiaokai. At first, the two thought that Tang Xiaokai went to say hello, but Tang Xiaokai denied it. When one's status reached the level of Mark Zuckerberg, the words and actions of these people could not be influenced by simple interpersonal relationships. In Mark Zuckerberg's words, this was roughly the case. Just like what Chen Guang had been doing, the global technology industry had been challenging the limits of human beings and all kinds of impossibilities. Regardless of whether Chen Guang could do it this time, his courage and determination to attack the impossible represented the great, well, that was enough to promote human progress. He knew that it was impossible, and he knew that it was difficult, but he did it. This was crazy, and it was great. In the long history of human scientific development, there had been many people like him, just like Bruno and Galileo, who were persecuted many years ago. Chen Guang's behavior today seemed crazy, but it represented the lifelong pursuit of every generation of scientific and technological talents. Never compromise with any doubts, even if they die on the road. Even if he may not be right, we can't let the spirit of human progress be in the cold winter of the world's criticism. We have responsibilities and obligations, and we have to follow our hearts, so we choose to support him. What we really support is not his behavior today. We recognize his past achievements, and we recognize his current spirit. What we want to defend is not some movie, but the courage of human beings to challenge the impossible. We must always have a different voice and protect everyone's right to make a choice, because only then will our future have infinite possibilities. Although the truth of the matter might not be as great as what Zuckerberg said, maybe they used their artificial intelligence and big data system to analyze Chen Guang's past, and came to a seemingly ridiculous, but actually reasonable conclusion. Maybe these technology giants thought that Chen Guang could win this time, so they chose to bet on him. If they could win, even if they could not get substantial economic benefits, the potential benefits could bring them huge benefits, and even the friendship of many Chinese people. Just this alone was enough to tempt the tech giants. But no matter what their motives were, the technology giants who could make such a choice at this moment were extremely righteous. It was easy to hit someone when they were down, but it was hard to help someone when they were in need. When Lu Xiaoyang heard Tang Xiaokai trying his best to suppress his emotions and say these words with a trembling voice, he almost burst into tears. Comrade Xiao Lu silently looked at the room next door. The boss had just eaten lunch, and he should still be writing at this moment. He thought to himself, how charismatic does our boss have to be able to influence those billionaires in the present age? It's a waste of boss's talent not to be a charlatan. Lu Xiaoyang looked at his watch again. There are still 7 hours until the premiere. Fang Tianyu nodded. The two of them took out another report. After the premiere at 8 p.m. that night, the official screening in the United States would start at 10:30 p.m. Looking at the shocking red crosses and the embarrassing figure of only 0.67%, the two of them, who had just been excited, felt cold again. In just 2 days, the 2% screening rate that they had negotiated with much difficulty had plummeted. Many cinema chains even had to pay compensation out of their own pockets to forcibly remove women from the shelves. Everything had been prepared too hastily, and the medium-sized distribution company controlled by Tang Jie Foundation had too little say. Many cinema chains had to consider the attitude of all American filmmakers. Even though they knew that it was a breach of contract, they had no choice but to further reduce the screening rate. Although the support of the tech giants had slightly changed the situation of public opinion, and although the tech industry and the film industry were inextricably linked, there was still an inevitable barrier. Their stance could not change the situation of the declining screening rate. Such a big publicity for the movie premiere was held in Hollywood's Huaxiao Theater's number 14 screening hall, and the screening rate on the first day was only 0.67%. There was no weirder and more painful movie premiere than this. Fang Tianyu still had a bitter look on his face as he waved the premiere invitation list in his hand. There were big red crosses on it one after another. Fang Tianyu sighed. I've really tried my best. I can't invite anyone from the North American entertainment industry. President Tang has also helped a lot, but it's useless. Everyone who is even a little bit related to the entertainment industry is avoiding us like snakes and scorpions. Lu Xiaoyang took the list and sighed. I feel like I really miss the old foreign professor in San Diego. If it really doesn't work, we can spend some money to find a few experienced international friends to do some makeup, and give each of them a suit to make up for the number of people. We should at least make it look more impressive. As he spoke, Chen Guang's voice resounded in his ears. Only the heavens knew how that fellow was capable of listening to their conversation through a wall. No need. It's fine if there's no one at the premiere. That's the effect I want, the contrast. The uglier and more miserable we look, the better. Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu looked at each other, not understanding Chen Guang's intentions. Be reasonable, boss. Aren't we embarrassed like this? Chapter 1067. With such a low screening rate, a premiere with 0 guests in Screening Hall 14, and a time when humans have yet to break out of Earth and enter outer space, based on the criticism and popularity we're receiving now, we're definitely going to become a laughingstock and a disgrace to outer space. Lu Xiaoyang clicked on another piece of news. To be precise, it was yesterday's old news. The title was A Premiere Without Guests. I heard that they still want to fight for the Oscars? An Oriental joke from an ancient civilization with 5,000 years of history. The guy who wrote this news was quite vicious and sinister. Unlike others who attacked Chen Guang's acting skills from all aspects, he found a very tricky angle to ridicule and satirize the premiere of Women. This article catered to many people's tastes. Since it was published on the internet, it received a high number of clicks, reposts, and replies. Even some local TV stations specially used this article to talk about it, making this guy earn a lot of royalties in one day. Although this guy called LeBron Antonio was unknown, and he was purely trying to ride on the hot news, he did have some channels to find out a lot of inside information, and he caught hold of Chen Guang and the Tianguang Group's weakness. Lu Fang and Lu Xiaoyang sighed. It was already embarrassing enough, and now people were writing about it and ridiculing it. What a scam! They should have brought a team from China, at least Chengdu's Boss Li or the two Ma's, and then let Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage bring in some industry stars, such as Brother Long or Master Xing. They were considered heavyweights in the world, and they could handle the scene. But it was too late. What should they do now? Find someone by force? The boss of some small company under Tang Xiaokai that had a market value of tens of millions? The American soldier who made a living in China? C.I. Shiping, who had some fate with China and was working as a water cooler manager for the Los Angeles Lakers. Or Marbury, who refused to retire from the Yanjing basketball team. Stop messing around. Who knew them? Today's movie will be released on the same day, and the cast members are A-list superstars such as Cameron, Spielberg, Tom Cruise, Lil Lee, Blessed Curls, Moldy, Trembling Woods, Hermione, Eminem, and so on. We might as well not bring this lineup. You might be shameless, but others were. In this situation, even if you offered money, you wouldn't be able to invite them. Most importantly, the premiere is only 7 hours away, and we can't even afford such a shabby lineup. So bitter. In the next room, Chen Guang was not as calm as he appeared. He was so angry that he wanted to chop someone up. But what could he do? Kidnap him? Was he really going to spend money to hire a fake army? The media wasn't stupid. Now that he was full of flaws, it would only be more embarrassing if they found someone to expose him. F***CK. How much have you wronged me today? When the old man writes his monograph, when the old man becomes the best actor, how ashamed will you be? I want all of you to feel ashamed of yourselves. However, he was also a little worried. Did he go too far? If he really couldn't force people into the cinema even with a knife, it would be like what Tang Xiaokai said about a 3-day cinema tour. He would be in big trouble. Sai, forget it. I don't want to think about this. I have to have confidence in myself. At most, I'll go to the forum and play the patriotic card. First, I'll trick the Chinese into joining. Then I'll get my fellow countrymen to help me with MLM. He was really quick-witted, coming up with an idea in a flash. Forget it. I'll just continue writing my novel. Time passed in the blink of an eye. No matter how painful Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang were, they still had to leave 6 hours earlier. Although the Tianguang Group team in Los Angeles had more than 60 people, the two idiots were still the ones in charge. They wouldn't feel at ease if they didn't see some key points with their own eyes. After leaving, the two of them went their separate ways. Lu Xiaoyang went to the Hollywood Huaxia Theater, while Fang Tianyu went to the Tianguang Group's temporary office in Los Angeles. It was an office building that Tang Xiaokai had just rented yesterday. It was about a 10-minute walk from the Flemington Hotel. At this time, the office building was filled with dozens of people. People came and went, and it was very busy. There were only people in the office, and the desks were empty. The employees of the Tianguang Group really didn't have time to prepare desktop computers. Fortunately, most of the elites who came here had brought their own laptops. If they didn't, the boss was rich. The laptops were a little short and small, so the desk looked empty, but it didn't affect their work efficiency. Get in touch with YouTube and follow up on their public opinion data. If they need information to support it, get the headquarters to organize the documents and send them over immediately. All the information must be categorized, and the items must be clear. D*MN. This is obviously Dog 3's job, but I'm the one doing it. Xiaozhang. Call Valiant Company. The top right corner of the billboard in Times Square has been flashing nonstop. It's blinding. Xiaozhang, have you contacted the publisher and the printing company? The boss will bring out the book the day after tomorrow. We want to create a global publishing miracle. The boss will publish the book in the morning, and we will send the fragrant book to every newsstand in the US in the afternoon. Before dawn in China, we want all the Xinhua bookstores to be filled with the boss's books. We want Amazon, Jingxi Taobao, and all the big internet celebrities on Weibo to sell the boss's books. Remember, the price in China is $39.9 US and the same in Europe and the US. Not 1 cent more, not 1 cent less. Xiaozhang. Manager Fang, we will lose money this way. Fang Tianyu. If we lose money, so be it. The boss said that the main goal of the first printing is to maximize sales. As long as the losses are within the company's bearable range, there won't be a problem. If we make money, he will only ask me for it. Xiaozheng. What about proofreading and refinement? Will the boss just print it after he writes it? Fang Tianyu grunted. You're finished. You're questioning the ability of the world's #1 language master. Will the boss make a typo? Impossible. Even if he's wrong, he's still right. Have you heard of Lu Sun's story? Do you want me to tell you about it? Xiaohu. Immediately contact all the major cinema chains that have decided not to go back on their word. I just talked to President Tang's distribution company. We will continue to reduce the film's commission by 10% and give the cinema chains 80% of the box office commission. Damn, I don't believe they won't be tempted. Every cinema will subsidize $5,000 for publicity and let them make their own posters. The screening rate is 0.67%. F***CK. Tell them that for every additional screening, our distribution company will reward them with $1,000. Xiaozhou, contact the ticketing company and ask for special tickets, group tickets, discounted tickets. The average ticket price in the US cannot exceed $4.50. Give out popcorn as soon as you enter. 3 days later, there will be a big gift pack. $39.9 for the big gift pack. The movie tickets and the boss's book will be bundled together. Wait, the big gift pack will only cost $29.9. Chen Guang had gone crazy. Fang Tianyu had also gone crazy. He was dead set on the financial budget given by Su Li. He was going to spend every cent of the Tianguang Group's money, and he was going to spend it wisely. After the initial publicity, the focus of the work had shifted to increasing the screening rate and attendance rate as the top priority. As for how to change the reputation of the movie and the boss's image after he got them in, this was beyond the scope of his ability. It was not something he could manage. Whether a work was good or not, the internet water army and public opinion could play a role. But in the end, the boss had to be as awesome as he said. But as the boss had said, it was not a problem that he needed to worry about or consider. As the boss's right-hand man, he only needed to carry out the boss's will. Anyway, he would do his best and leave it to fate. Bundling the boss's book with the movie tickets was a genius idea that Fang Tianyu had suddenly come up with. Oh, one more question. What about the premiere? Thinking of this, poor old Fang sighed again. Buttface should be about to explode. He had also tried his best. He had even inquired about the interpersonal relationships that he had built up after working in the United States for so many years. But he could not get anyone to come. I tried my best, but I couldn't do it. Forget it. Anyway, the boss has already given up. We are not Superman. We can't do anything about it. Fang Tianyu's guess was right. At this time, Lu Xiaoyang was standing in the huge square outside the Huaxia Theater in Hollywood. He had a feeling that the wind was howling and the water was cold. Manager Fang, the venue I arranged for you is not bad, right? But aren't your posters and banners a little too shabby? You can't even fill 1/3 of the venue. This empty space reminds me of the layout of your cities when I traveled to Huaxia 20 years ago. Also, what is this narrow red carpet? Is it a footcloth? Donna Josh Dan, who was supposed to be extremely busy today, ran over to Lu Xiaoyang's side and teased him with great interest. As the manager of the Huaxia Theater for many years, he would not make himself work so hard. Although the Huaxia Theater had to hold the premiere of at least 8 movies at the same time, Donald did not need to worry about everything. The theater company had a complete staff structure, and there were people who could help him. As the general manager, Donald only needed to deal with some core affairs, such as wrangling with Tang Xiaokai in the office. Of course, that also included him running over to Lu Xiaoyang's side to add insult to injury. Although work was important, maintaining a happy mood was more important. The premiere of Women is also part of the Huaxia Theater's business. Now that I'm here, I can show my professionalism. Lu Xiaoyang's face was livid. Mr. Josh Dan, this is not what we agreed on. The venue is a little too big. Also, Mr. Josh Dan, my surname is Lu. I am not Manager Fong. Donald's expression did not change. Oh, I'm sorry. In my eyes, you Huaxia people all look a little similar. Also, doesn't your company like a bigger venue? Since your company's boss, Chen Guang, wants to win an Oscar, you can't just want a small corner, right? People will think that you are a troupe from China. I heard from a friend that there is a Chinese idiom to describe this kind of people. It's called grassroots troupe, right? One had to admit that Donald's Chinese pronunciation was very good, and his pronunciation was very accurate. Obviously, he had expected Chen Guang's people to question him, so he had practiced his lines on purpose. He had prepared his lines in advance to add insult to injury. Lu Xiaoyang was about to explode. Damn it. If it wasn't for the fact that you have a high status in the North American film industry, I would have slapped your face. Damn it, you are the grassroots troupe. Your whole family is a grassroots troupe. Chapter 1068. But Lu Xiaoyang tolerated it. He pinched his nose and replied in a muffled voice. If he did not pinch his nose, he was worried that he would have to use his fists to serve the other party. Then I would like to thank you on behalf of Mr. Chen. Donald smiled insincerely. Manager Fong, you're too kind. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I wish you a great premiere. There will be a lot of media reporters here today. Although your movie has a terrible image in the media right now, I will be happy to invite the media reporters over to take a look, take some photos, write some articles, and publish some news. This should be able to satisfy your company's Mr. Chen's requirements and give you a better influence. Donald left immediately after he finished speaking. He could tell that Lu Xiaoyang was about to explode, although the one who would suffer would be that annoying Chen Guang if he were to be beaten up. But I'm an old man. There's no need for me to suffer with a young man. That would be bad for my health. After Donald left, Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath for 30 seconds to calm down. He knew that the other party was here to disgust him, and he knew that he had fallen into the old man's trap. But even though he knew that it was a trap, he could not help but jump in. Lu Xiaoyang sighed. Compared to his boss, who would remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, he was worlds apart. Forget it, the boss is right. I'll make a grand entrance, no matter how much land you give me. Don't you want to see us make a fool of ourselves? We'll let you see as much as you want today. When the boss's movie is released, all of you will be convinced by the beating. How arrogant you are today will be how embarrassing you will be when the time comes. F***CK, my surname is not Fong. Xiaoqing, come here. Contact the printing company and convention company. Change the red carpet immediately. Change the stage. Change the posters. Change all of them. We'll occupy as much land as he gives us. Manager Lu, is this really okay? We don't have any guests. Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath and imitated Chen Guang's tone. Xiaoqing, you're still young. You don't understand the boss's realm. Don't be happy with external things. Don't be sad about yourself. No matter what happens outside, I will stand firm. If you always care about other people's gazes and gossips, then you can only become immortal. Look at our president Chen. How did he achieve so much at such a young age? Little Qin, life is a science. You really have to learn slowly. You're still young. After saying that, Lu Xiaoyang walked away with his hands clasped behind his back like an expert. Little Qin stood there and thought for a long time. Isn't CEO Chen only 21 years old? Also, I calculated with my fingers. It's true that Chief Chen is capable, but according to manager Lu's theory, that boss's greatest achievement is that he is thick-skinned and isn't afraid of being scolded. Right? Lu Xiaoyang's calmness and good mood did not last long. Not long after Don had left, William Jones, who had met Chen Guang once before, came over with a large group of friends. These European and American celebrities had come to attend the movie premieres of The Sunshine Man and July in Florence. Although they knew that the recently popular women was also here, they had originally planned to stay far away from them, to draw a clear line between them and the movie. However, after listening to William Jones's suggestion, they immediately changed their minds and came here to see what was going on. Behind this group of people, there was a large group of reporters with their cameras and cannons. Yo, this is the premiere of a Chinese blockbuster that has a screening rate of 0.67% in the United States. That's amazing. What a big stage. Yo, it's the premiere of Hall 14. It looks like a blockbuster. Ha 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 ha, this reminds me of Anderson's Call. What? The Emperor's new costume? I have a question. Did you guys hear who's going to attend their premiere? I know someone from the New York Yankees will be coming. Who? A lawn-mower for the New York Yankees, but I don't know his name. Ha 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 ha. My friends from the media, hurry up and take pictures of this magical scene. The Chinese really care more about their reputation than we thought. I'm really worried that they won't be able to earn back the money they spent on the premiere. That's impossible. I heard that they paid UBC $1 million for the advertisement. Lu Xiaoyang kept reminding himself, I'll endure. I'll endure. I'll continue to endure. I'll continue to endure. I'm Ninja Sango. When these people finally leave, who knows how many pictures those reporters will take? I can easily guess what kind of news will appear on the internet. Forget it, it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, the premiere will be over in another 3 or 4 hours. Our premiere will probably last about 10 minutes. After a while, another group of celebrities arrived. This time, they were led by an Oscar-winning director. Again, I'm being trampled on again. They even put pot ashes in my eyes. Lu Xiaoyang couldn't stand it anymore. He decisively turned around and ran away. He told little Qin that if anything happened, he could report to him at any time. He could just hide in the cafe next to the square and watch. He couldn't control them, but he was also angry. So, he decisively decided not to see them. President Chen, when are you coming? Come and save me. Time passed by quickly. 1 hour. 2 hours later, the venue of the world premiere of Women was quickly renovated by the super-efficient operation of the US dollar. The exhibition lighting layout was more gorgeous, and the poster array was more exquisite and large. The spacious pure wool red carpet could even be ridden by horses. Everything looked so gorgeous. Except for Comrade Xiao Lu's increasingly short guest list, it was really flawless. That's right. Originally, there were a few friends in the circle that Big Beard Deng had put in a lot of effort to get. At least they had some weight, and people would have some impression of their names. But in these few hours, these people might have been persuaded by others, or they might have been scared away by the negative news that had just been continuously updated on social networks and the media. Until now, they had sent messages one after another, either saying that they had a stomachache or something happened at home. In short, one after another, they said that they couldn't come. What was even more miserable was that in these 2 to 3 hours, other premieres had started one after another. They were really brilliant and strong. Even if it was a pure literary film with an investment of less than $10 million, there were also big names in the industry who came to support them for free. Among them, there was even a bastard who had just stood Lu Xiaoyang up and said that he had his appendix removed in the hospital. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Almost every time after the red carpet part of the press conference, the reporters who were free for a short time would go to the booth of Women, which was beautifully decorated, but only had a few staff members to take pictures of the cold wind. Lu Xiaoyang, who was hiding in the cafe, saw this scene. He knew that the titles of these beasts tonight would generally be like this. XX movie conference stars shine, China's women is deserted. On the day of the XX movie premiere, XXX superstar said that he had watched the test screening, and the reviews were overwhelming. The movie is scheduled to be nominated for an Oscar. Next door, women said that I'm here for the golden plums. The foreigners might not have used such a lofty idiom as deserted, and would generally change it to something else, but the meaning should be more or less the same. You animals, I can tolerate it if only 1 or 2 families do this, but if all of them do this, it's too much. He looked down at the calendar in his hand, and his face became even more ashen. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the 3 movies, Women, The Sunshine Man and July in Florence, would hold their premieres at the same time. The movie The Sunshine Man told the story of a white man who was born in a black area, and the difficulties and struggles he felt since he was young, especially after he became an adult. The movie cut into the story from a very tricky and novel angle, reflecting the color barrier in the current era, and finally expressed the concept of eliminating discrimination and pursuing coexistence. It was very much in line with the mainstream ideology of the United States, led by Comrade Guanhai in recent years. July in Florence was not easy to deal with either. The story took place in Florence during the Renaissance, but it was not about familiar names like Michelangelo, Raphael, or Leonardo da Vinci. July in Florence told the story of the European customs and cultural environment of this special period from the perspective of an aspiring but unknown artist at that time. Under the director's meticulous craftsmanship, the film was beautifully produced. It started from a small point of view, and the story was intertwined. The final ending was huge, and it could be said to be the best Renaissance historical film in the 21st century. Apart from Women, The Sunshine Man and July in Florence were the hot favorites for this year's Oscar. They did not even need any other publicity, and they had already been nominated for several awards. In particular, William Jones and Ben Affleck, the 2 male leads in the movie, were almost the 2 most popular nominees for the Oscar this year. Although the other nominees were also veterans in the industry with good reputations and acting skills, due to the limitations of the theme and structure of the movie itself, they were a lot less imposing than these 2. The other actors had even become the tag-along party. However, this was not the problem that Lu Xiaoyang cared about the most at that moment. He only thought about what happened to his boss tonight, and his heart ached for him and himself. It's hard to say if we'll be the tag-along party at the Oscars, but we've already been the tag-along party at the premiere. Our booth is bigger than everyone else's combined, but when the other side is bustling with noise, our booth is completely silent. How miserable is that? Who says that international friends are gentle and refined? Who says that international friends are polite and of high quality? These bastards drive to hit people when they're down, and the foreign media's ability to tear people's scars and spit on people's faces. They're all very cunning. While Lu Xiaoyang was letting his imagination run wild, a person suddenly sat down next to him. He turned his head and saw Chen Guang open his Apple computer and snap his fingers at the waiter. "Vetries, give me a caramel latte and 3 grams of oil." "Boss, why are you here?" Lu Xiaoyang forced himself to focus and asked. Chapter 1069. Flipping open his laptop, Chen Guang continued. "I'm almost done with the first half of the World School of Performing Arts. I originally intended to finish the entire book by today, but it looks like I'm a little late. But it doesn't matter. I'll split it into 2 volumes. Wait for another half an hour, and I'll give you the electronic version of the first volume. Contact Feng Tianyu, and try to get a hardcover copy of the first volume before the premiere tonight. When the time comes, anyone who's willing to attend our premiere, whether they're people from the media or people in the entertainment industry, even if they're able-bodied men who just happen to pass by, we'll give them a copy. But we don't have a serial number for our printed publications. It's illegal, isn't it?" Lu Xiaoyang's eyes lit up. He thought Chen Guang's idea was great, but it was a bit inappropriate. Chen Guang said indifferently, "It doesn't matter. We're giving it away for free. We won't make any profit at all. It's just like how people give away collections of theses when they attend academic conferences. It's just a printed product at our own expense. It doesn't violate any laws in the USA. Remember, Buttface, tonight, when the most embarrassing premiere in history begins, it will be the time for us to blow the horn of our counterattack. To maximize the influence of the premiere, we have to do whatever it takes. Yes, boss. Lu Xiaoyang stood up and walked out quickly. Just a moment ago, he was still feeling dejected, but Chen Guang's words had ignited his fighting spirit. With a smile, Chen Guang lowered his head to write the last paragraph of the first volume. A few minutes later, when he had just pressed the send button, a blonde waitress came with a cup of coffee. Sir, your coffee is here. Please enjoy. Chen Guang looked up and smiled. Freundlinger. That was the German pronunciation of thank you. The waitress was surprised. Sir, how do you know I'm German? Chen Guang blinked. Your English has a little northern Bavarian accent. If I'm not wrong, you grew up in Nuremberg. The waitress was shocked. Sir, you're amazing. Chen Guang waved his hand calmly. It's nothing. If you knew my name, you wouldn't be surprised at all. The waitress thought about it for a long time. Although she worked in the heart of the entertainment industry, she was so busy every day that her feet did not touch the ground. As a German, she was not interested in the gossip in the entertainment industry. She did not know Chen Guang's name. But now, Chen Guang's words had piqued her endless curiosity. Sir, although I really don't know you, may I have your number? I admire your erudition. Chen Guang looked up at her. It may not be a good thing for you to exchange contact information with me. If you really want to be my friend, you can take your friend to the Hollywood Huaxia Theater across the square to watch the premiere of a movie from China, Women. It's free. The waitress was stunned. She finally matched Chen Guang's image in her mind with the news that she had seen while chatting with her colleagues last night. Her jaw dropped. Oh my God, you are. Chen Guang shushed her. Don't call my name out loud, or your boss will kick me out. I don't want to carry my laptop around everywhere. Okay, sir. The waitress took a while to calm down. I'll get back to work then? Well, okay. Thank you. Your coffee is great. Chen Guang took out a $50 tip from his pocket and put it in the waitress's hand. Thank you for your service. The waitress blushed slightly, but after a short hesitation, she still took it. She turned around and took 2 steps, then stopped and turned back. Mr. Chen, my friend is the head of the community service organization here. I will ask her to bring her friends to watch a movie tonight. You are completely different from the rumors. You are knowledgeable, humble and polite. Chen Guang nodded slightly. You flatter me. The waitress suddenly blushed under his gaze. I know you will be very busy during this period. But if it's possible, I really want to leave your contact information. I also know that you seem to have a girlfriend in China, but I don't care about that. Hearing this, Chen Guang's heart trembled. This was practically asking him out in the open. Thank you for your kindness, but we Chinese are very particular about fate. Fate means that there are 7 billion people in this world, and every time they meet and have a conversation, it's actually made up of countless miraculous coincidences. However, to truly turn this coincidental fate into an inevitable friendship, it might take a little more time to settle, and a second fate. Not only was the waitress not annoyed by his rejection, but the light in her eyes became brighter. I understand, Mr. Chen. She did not have any unhappiness when she failed to ask him out. Instead, she left with a heart full of joy. Chen Guang shook his head slightly. No way. Handsome people are just that confident. After sending the email, he stretched his back. He was not physically tired, but he wanted to rest. There were still 2 days before the next volume, and he just needed to get it out in time the day after tomorrow. He wrote the first volume more slowly. On the one hand, the content of the first volume was similar to the general outline, and there were some more general conceptual things in it. On the other hand, this was the first time he had written such a high-intensity book continuously, and the difficulty was greater than when he taught people how to fly a plane or write language textbooks. Now that he had a little bit of knowledge, he was more familiar with the second volume, and the things he wrote were not so superficial, but more detailed and practical skills, so he wrote faster. He opened the document again, and roughly counted the number of words. It was incredible that he had written a full 200,000 words in less than 3 days. If it were not for the old man's profound skills and invincible body, he would not have been able to hold on. Sitting here alone was also boring, so he opened Weibo and the news media website to browse casually. Thanks to the human nature of the big data system in the information age, he had been looking for news related to himself recently, and almost all the news that was pushed to him were related to him. Forget it. There was no need to repeat those shocking headlines. Saying too much would make him cry. Regardless of whether it was Chinese, English, German, or French, as far as the eye could see, most of them were scolding him. Chen Guang searched for a long time, and finally found an article on the domestic news media website that spoke up for him. A young man who knew what was good for him had organized the special topics created by technology giants, such as YouTube, into a report, which could be considered as speaking up for him. However, the comment section below was still tragic, and his own fans and haters who did not like him were in a heated argument. Chen Guang roughly scanned through and estimated the ratio of the two sides in his heart. He was quite impressed with himself. In China, these two types of people actually accounted for half of the country. This ratio was very accurate, and the margin of error was less than 1%. This meant that about half of the people in the country who knew him supported him, and the other half opposed him. It was as if he was in the world of the internet, at the junction of ice and fire, representing the two levels of the world. If one could be like this, even if he was not a hero, he would be an ambitious person. Thinking about it, he was quite proud. The situation overseas was worse. There was no way to see it. There was really no way to see it. The language of the international friends was quite vicious. If it was someone who did not understand foreign slang, he would not be so angry, but he understood it all. Chen Guang. He was looking through the news when he suddenly heard a foreigner's very non-standard Chinese pronunciation, and he recognized it. Chen Guang turned his head to look to his side. The person who was talking to him was a blonde, handsome guy. He did not look old, but according to Chen Guang's understanding, he should be around 30 years old. He did not know where this man came from, but he should be very famous. After all, many people in the cafe had their eyes on him, and at the same time, they were whispering endlessly. His eyes were very sharp, like an eagle's, and he was also quite tall, about 188 meters. At this moment, he was standing beside him and looking down, giving off a feeling of superiority. This guy seemed to be a big shot, after being scolded so many times on the internet. Chen Guang did not need to guess to know why he was here. "It's me, and then? What can I do for you?" The blonde man's lips curled up slightly, and there was an extremely disdainful smile on his face. "My name is Ben Afflet. It seems like you don't know me?" Chen Guang turned his face back to the computer, not even looking at him. "I don't know many foreigners, of course not including you. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. I don't like to be disturbed." Ben's expression changed slightly. He did not expect this guy to really not recognize him. He was about to say something, but Chen Guang spoke again. "Oh, I remember. I just saw your information not long ago. You're the male lead of Lingsui's August, right?" Ben Afflet's breathing became slightly heavier. "It's July in Florence. Friend, your pronunciation is too bad. By the way, your movie doesn't have an English dub, right? Is it a subtitled version?" Bent was right. Originally, women would have a dub, but before Big Beard Ding could record it, Chen Guang had already screened it in the United States. A Chinese movie without an English dub, and still trying to get an Oscar. Chen Guang was indeed unprecedented. "What does this have to do with you? Don't you understand what I'm saying?" Chen Guang tilted his head slightly and looked at him coldly. He did not care how famous this guy was. Anyway, he had already offended all the filmmakers. It was no big deal to catch one and make it worse. Moreover, this guy was like William Jones the other day, a direct competitor of his. Chen Guang pretended to be confused, but his mind was as clear as snow. "Of course it has something to do with me. Are you here to be a clown? The thought of someone like you trying to get an Oscar makes me feel sick and nauseous. You've made Los Angeles a mess. Why don't you be smart and leave here early? take you and your R&B and get lost. That way, you can at least look like a decent person. Otherwise, Chen Guang took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes. His expression changed. I'm sorry, I don't care what you scold me, but I can't stand being threatened. Chapter 1070. Ben Affleck's tone suddenly paused. As a top actor in the world, he had just called Chen Guang a clown. But in that instant, Chen Guang's gaze reminded him of another clown character. It was Heath Ledger's role as the Joker in Batman, The Dark Knight, one of the most iconic villains in the history of movies. Chen Guang's eyes were empty with madness, calm but filled with bloodthirsty murderous intent. Otherwise, I will personally take a photo of you tonight and post it on my social media account. Ben Affleck didn't know what was wrong with him. He wanted to say that he was going to beat him up, but the words came out like this. He really didn't want to admit that he had fallen into the fear of facing Satan because of a look from the other party. Chen Guang smiled. Then I really have to thank you. Remember to make me look more handsome, or I will sue you for violating my portrait rights. Get lost, see you at the Oscars. Ben Affleck was a world-renowned superstar, and he had never been treated like this before. He blushed and wanted to get angry subconsciously, but he was intimidated by Chen Guang's look just now. He looked back dejectedly, and then turned away with a livid face. Seeing that Bent had been humiliated, the others in the cafe gathered together and whispered. Most of them were complaining about Bent's injustice, thinking that Chen Guang lacked manners. Chen Guang's ears were sharp, and he curled his lips in disdain. He had been scolded so many times that he was completely numb. Who cares? A little anger just now had some benefits. At least the cafe owner, who had recognized him, didn't dare to drive him away. An hour later, Chen Guang returned to the hotel and changed into a suit and tie. He combed his beautiful hair like a waterfall, and after being carefully dressed by a top makeup artist hired by Lu Xiaoliang, he finally stood on the grand stage of the world premiere of Women. At this time, the lights behind him were bright, and the red carpet was dazzling. The edge of the giant poster behind him flashed with neon LED colors. The large LED countdown sign above his head showed that it was exactly 7:40 a time. Nearly 60 employees of the Tianguang Group in Los Angeles also stood on the red carpet, all the way to his side. Everything looked so luxurious. Apart from the fact that it looked cold and shabby, compared to the other two premieres, there was nothing wrong with it. Although the venue was not as big as the one for Women, it was still brightly lit. However, the exhibition's decorations and appearance were all secondary. When it came to holding a press conference or a premiere, it was all about the people. It was better to have an international superstar standing there than to have thousands of primary school students wave flags and shout battle cries. It was the same as in China, or even crazier. The European and American celebrities were standing there, waving their hands and nodding their heads. This was living popularity. For example, the former king of pop, Jackson, had countless fans all over the world. Wherever he went, as long as he was willing to appear in public, even in a remote mountain village, he would be tainted with his nobility. Any reporter or photography enthusiast could take a picture. As long as Jackson was in the picture frame, even if the house behind him was made of mud, he could still be on the cover of a fashion magazine without losing his reputation. Pop superstars had such influence, just like Watson, William Jones, Ben Affleck, Mars and Stone, who were smiling and waving their hands casually on the red carpets of the two opposite companies, could make the crowd scream crazily. Any one of them in the crowd could make everyone on Chen Guang's side feel suffocated. No matter how calm you looked, others would think that you were stubborn and that it was useless. They probably wouldn't even have to wait until tomorrow morning. Now the reporters and onlookers would rush over to take pictures or videos from time to time, after they finished taking pictures, and post the obvious contrast of the press conference on the internet. Chen Guang could imagine the headlines of these people. F***ck. Not a single person came. Chen Guang cursed. But face, go find some dogs. I want poodles. Lu Xiaoliang and Fang Tianyu were speechless. Boss, where is your calmness? Were they eaten by dogs? Or are you going to let the dogs eat them? Fang Tianyu said. Boss, isn't that a bit inappropriate? Lu Xiaoyang also tried to persuade him. Boss, it's settled. It's settled. Chen Guang waved his hand in boredom. Forget it. I tricked some people into coming, but it seems that they didn't come. Let's wait for another 5 minutes, and then we'll go back to the cinema. Cancel all the speeches we prepared. By the way, have you finished printing the first volume of World School? Lu Xiaoyang nodded. It's done. Boss, take a look. Chen Guang took the still warm first volume of World School of Performing Arts from Lu Xiaoyang. He flipped through it casually and was quite satisfied. Previously, he was worried that things would be too hasty, so he could only get a printed bound book with extremely simple packaging. But now, the book in his hand was beautifully packaged with a plastic cover, and the artistic font of the title looked very classy. He opened it gently. The paper was thick and had a soft yellow color. The English words printed inside were clear and spaced reasonably. At first glance, this hastily written book of World School of Performing Arts was as exquisite as a work of art. Of course, what satisfied Chen Guang most was the cover of the book. As expected of the roundworm in his stomach, but face really had a good eye for judgment. Chen Guang looked at his big face on the cover. So handsome. Well photoshopped. Pooh. With my natural beauty. With my handsome face that looks like Pan An's. Do I still need Photoshop? I don't need it. Placing the book back in Lu Xiaoyang's hands, Chen Guang replied. Well done. Later, get a pretty lady to stand at the entrance of the theater and give it to everyone that enters. Make sure to make it clear that this is the first half of my performing arts monograph that we've been promoting. Lu Xiaoyang nodded silently. He didn't know whether he should say it or not. President Chen, in my opinion, the hundreds of books we printed today can only be used for the bonfire party tonight. Alas, it's beautiful, but we need it urgently. The cost is $33.7 per book. It's really painful for me to give them away like this. Lu Xiaoyang changed the way he said it. Chen Guang patted his shoulder calmly. It doesn't matter. I don't think we can give any of them away. Damn, Mr. Chen, you know your place pretty well. Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu rolled their eyes at the same time. At this moment, the red carpet ceremony outside the premiere of The Sunshine Man had just come to an end. The director and the main creator, William Jones, were standing on the stage to give a speech. They were about to lead their friends in the industry, as well as the heavyweights from the media, who had obtained the tickets to the premiere, to the #1 theater. In the blink of an eye, a large group of reporters and onlookers turned around and headed towards women. Further away, the despicable and shameless William Jones and the others did not turn around and head inside immediately. Instead, they took out binoculars out of nowhere and looked at women with great interest. Chen Guang's expression didn't change. He adjusted his expression and flicked his hair, putting on a calm smile on his face. They're coming to take pictures of me. Make them look more handsome. Chen Guang seemed to be talking to himself, but it also seemed like he was talking to Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu. Lu Xiaoyang, Fang Tianyu, and the other employees of Tianguang Group turned around and looked at his side profile. They didn't know why, but they felt a sense of desolation from his faint smile. When a tiger falls to the plains, it gets bullied by dogs. When a dragon swims in shallow waters, it gets swallowed by shrimps. The heroic President Chen was actually going to suffer such humiliation in a foreign country. Damn it. However, under such circumstances, he was still able to smile at them. This showed just how extraordinary President Chen was. If it was someone else, they would probably have run away and cried somewhere. All the employees of Tianguang Group looked at Chen Guang with an indescribable look in their eyes. Worship. No one knew what Chen Guang was thinking. To be honest, the old man was actually panicking. It didn't matter how much people mocked him. But based on the current trend, were they going to perform a reverse miracle of zero box office sales in North America? This wasn't good. Although he was 100% confident in his acting skills, he knew that once someone walked into the cinema and came out, even without the cooperation of a monograph, there was a high chance that they would become his tap water. This was also where his confidence came from. Before him, No one in the film industry had ever dared to say such things to him. Even old films that were now regarded as classics could not be praised by everyone when they were released. Just like the 4 great classical novels of today, the cultural dregs of the past, they were also created in controversy. Movies were, after all, a matter of opinion. Now, although Chen Guang was confident, he couldn't handle the fact that no one would watch it. No one would enter the cinema, and no one would see his acting skills. His amazing talent was completely covered in dust, and his meticulously prepared monograph, that would shock 7 billion people, couldn't be presented. This meant that he couldn't get any support from the tap water. It was like the world's #1 ballet dancer dancing on an empty stage. No matter how well she danced, she wouldn't be able to get a single applause. What was worse was that when the box office statistics came out the next day, it would either be 0, or there would only be a few people watching. What should he do then? The box office statistics were just that tragic. Even if he hired a water army, or bribed film critics to praise him online, it wouldn't be able to move him. The reviews posted online by your film critics were more than your total box office. Who were you kidding? There was something that Chen Guang didn't say. He had just glanced at the box office for the premiere, and he hadn't seen wrongly. It was 0. Looking at the queue at the ticket office, everyone was the same. The ticket office was empty, without a single person. However, the tickets for the premieres of Sunshine and July had long been snatched up by the major media outlets. No one was queuing, because there were no tickets to sell. But for women, no one was buying tickets. At that moment, Chen Guang was extremely annoyed by the deep malice of his international friends. Sigh. If he had known, he would have spent money to hire more people to watch it. Otherwise, he would have shouted a few times among the Chinese people. The old man had slightly underestimated the indifference of his international friends. Chen Guang really didn't want to admit that he had made a mistake. But now that things had come to this, it was too late for him to make up for it on the spot. Forget it. If the premiere collapsed, then so be it. Tomorrow, I'll obediently admit defeat. I'll spend money to hire people to go to the cinema, but I still have to keep up with the publicity. Today I've embarrassed myself. Tomorrow, even if the whole world knows that I'm shameless, I can only brag even more shamelessly. Anyway, the controversy was already big enough, so I might as well make it bigger. It was so big that people would have doubts in their minds, so that people would think in their hearts, why am I, Chen Guang, so arrogant? Let these people enter the cinema with the intention of criticizing. No matter what, they had no right to speak if they hadn't seen it for themselves. If these North American people wanted to scold with more layers, depth, and persuasiveness, they still had to go to the cinema. Chapter 1071. Chen Guang knew that no matter how unhappy those who disliked him were, they would walk into the cinema sooner or later. But they would not be satisfied with just attacking him as a person. The most likely target was still the movie. Chen Guang wanted to become an actor recognized by the world. If those people wanted to destroy his unrealistic dream, the best way was to attack his work. They would also think, I'm just going into the cinema alone. I won't be able to contribute much to the box office, so it doesn't matter if I go and watch. More and more people would walk into the cinema with this kind of thinking, which was actually a standard negative marketing idea. But these people who walked into the cinema with a nitpicking attitude would fall into Chen Guang's trap. If he really sat in the cinema for 2 hours, when he walked out his mentality would change. That was Chen Guang's original plan, but he did not expect that he would go too far. The voices of resistance would be too loud, and the ideology would be too concentrated, resulting in such an awkward scene at the premiere. The premiere was like this, and he estimated that the other cinemas, which had a pitiful 0.67% screening rate, would not be much better. Forget it. Although this would indeed affect the subsequent development of the entire plan, it was like a spring. The more aggrieved and miserable it was today, the more violent the rebound would be when it hit the bottom. Chen Guang forced himself to comfort himself. While his mind was running wild, the reporter from the Sunshine Man finally rushed over after finishing his interview. After all, Chen Guang was notorious. The less courageous reporters picked up their cameras and pointed them at the platform of women from afar. The more courageous reporters, who wanted to dig out more in-depth information, rushed directly to the bottom of the stage, raised their microphones at Chen Guang from afar, and shouted loudly, "Mr. Chen from China, are you satisfied with your grand premiere? Mr. Chen, where did you find this red carpet? It's so beautiful. It's even more spacious than the Los Angeles Lakers court. Do you still think you can win the Oscar for Best Actor? We really want to know what kind of confidence you have that gives you the courage to say such a thing. Mr. Chen, although the American people have always been known for their tolerance, don't you think you're being a little too arrogant? How do you feel right now, facing such a comical premiere? Mr. Chen, we heard that you are going to publish a book related to performing arts. We really want to know where you learned performing arts. Your Yinjing Film Academy? Or the Central Academy of Drama? Or is it like what is written in your Chinese martial arts novels, where you learn from a white-bearded old man who lives in seclusion in the mountains?" When these reporters asked such questions, they did not expect Chen Guang to answer at all. They did not follow the order of a normal reporter's interview. Instead, they asked him one after another like a barrage of cannons. It looked like an interview, but it was actually crazy sarcasm. Halfway through their noisy questioning, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. What a joke. This has completely overturned my impression of the Chinese. That's right. Feng Tianyu's face was livid. If Lu Xiaoliang had not held him back, he would have rushed up to beat them up. Feng Tianyu turned around and glared at Lu Xiaoliang. F***CK, aren't you angry? Lu Xiaoliang shrugged and quietly took out a cotton ball from his ear. I didn't even hear what they were saying. The two of them looked at Chen Guang, who was facing everyone's criticism. At that moment, even in the face of thousands of mockery, his expression did not change. He looked at the group of clowns in the audience with a smile. He even raised his hand and pressed it down. You have too many questions, so I won't answer them one by one. I will only say one thing. If you are just standing outside the theater and scolding me, then I will pretend that I didn't hear anything. If you really hate me so much, then go to the cinema and watch my movie first. Then, you can come and scold my movie and my people. This is much more interesting than scratching an itch like you guys are doing now. Also, I know you don't want to contribute to the box office. It's okay. I will personally announce that all the tickets for women at the Huaxia Theater in Hollywood are free. I will buy out all the tickets for you. How about that? The reporters had never encountered such an unruly person who laughed at them, so they looked at each other in dismay. Puffed. Don't expect us to watch your lousy movie even if you pay for it. That's right. Let's go, clowns. Humph. The reporters saw that Chen Guang was immune to their mockery and felt a little bored. They cursed and turned around to leave. Lu Xiaoliang and Feng Tianyu were stunned by Chen Guang's generosity. He was indeed the boss. He was so strong. The two of them moved closer to Chen Guang and touched his shoulder. Boss, how did you hold back? Chen Guang said. Huh? What did you say? He picked his ear as he spoke. Lu Xiaoliang and Feng Tianyu were confused. Boss, didn't you hear anything? Did you put something in your ear? Chen Guang smiled mysteriously. You guys are so naive. I told you I'm a martial arts master. I used my internal energy to block my hearing just now. I couldn't even hear thunder. The two of them. Impressive. Really impressive. William Jones, who was watching from a distance, had a smug smile on his face. William, we should go in. Stop watching this clown's performance. It's a waste of time. No. Sharon, this is interesting. It's even more interesting than me winning the Best Actor award in Berlin. I don't want to agree with you, but it's really interesting. Don't you think he's too pitiful? Emma, if he gets what he wants, we'll be the pitiful ones. He reminds me of Don Quixote by Cervantes. William Jones said, No, Emma, he's just as funny as Don Quixote, but he's not as great as Don Quixote. Yo, look, Mr. Josh Dan is going over. While the few of them were chattering, Donald Josh Dan, wearing a tuxedo, twisted his fat body and walked nimbly to the booth of women. He fulfilled his previous promise and really pulled back the reporters who were just about to disperse. He was immersed in the pleasure of dealing the finishing blow, and looked at Chen Guang from afar. He thought to himself, I've said it before. I'll humiliate you. I'm going to tell everyone what you said that day in front of me, word for word. Will it be my honor to give you screening hall 14? You want me to witness the birth of a new era? I've never seen such a shameless person. In a sense, you do represent a new era. There shouldn't be anyone more shameless than you in the history of movies. This old man is showing off again. Boss, what should we do now? Lu Xiaoyang stood behind Chen Guang and asked nervously. Lu Xiaoyang knew how despicable Donald was. The boss could ignore the reporters and onlookers, but not Donald Joshdan. If he completely ignored him, Chen Guang's image, which had already fallen to rock bottom, would worsen further. He would be described by the media as an arrogant, rude, and boorish man. However, if he ignored him, who knew if the old man had prepared a new trick to piss people off? It's okay, ignore him. I'm super calm now. Really? I promise no one will die. Fang Tianyu was speechless. Lu Xiaoyang said, Why don't we leave? There's no need to let a villain get what he wants. It's 7:55 now, and the movie will start in 5 minutes. As the three of them chatted, Donald walked closer and closer. Suddenly, the reporters behind Donald started a commotion. The crowd gradually stopped in their tracks. More and more people turned their attention to the other side of the square. They were looking at the wide red carpet on the side of the stage of women. What are these people doing here? Oh my God! I didn't hear that they were coming. Is this a Christmas surprise? Donald, who was in the crowd, also stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked into the distance, following the gaze of the others. His mouth was wide open, and his face was full of confusion. Chen Guang and the others, who were mentally prepared to run away, or stand there, and be bombarded by Donald, also turned their heads to look at the end of the red carpet. After a brief moment of being stunned, Chen Guang suddenly grinned when he saw the black man, who was walking in front of the crowd, and waving at him from afar. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that in his most embarrassing and difficult time, a brother he had never considered would actually appear out of nowhere and become his savior. It was Bonner Pierce, the top coach in the North American boxing world, a veteran big shot. Behind him, walking all the way from the red carpet, were Mayweather, Mouthy Connor, John Cena, Big Brother Xiao, and other top fighters who were active in WWE, mixed martial arts, or professional boxing. They were world-class boxing superstars with tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of appearance fees. Although they were not as well known as entertainment stars, their fame and aura were not inferior to those in the entertainment industry. In fact, they were even better, because their fans were even more fanatical. It was evident from the incomparably fanatical and crazy expressions of the reporters, who had originally planned to laugh at him. Chen Guang suddenly realized that he had been too immersed in his own world, and writing a book. He had only been thinking of ways to make a name for himself in the entertainment industry. Why didn't I think of it earlier? I could actually start from other avenues. Damn it, luckily Black Bro saved me. He didn't know how much he had done for him, but to be able to pull such a lineup for him at this moment, there was really no one else who could match his friendship. Donald stood in the crowd in a daze, his mind blank. Am I seeing things? Is there an international boxing all-star match in Los Angeles today? What are these lunatics doing here? Did they go to the wrong set and walk the wrong red carpet? In terms of fame, perhaps these boxing kings might not be as famous as movie stars or singers, but in terms of personal income and fanaticism of their fans, Mouthy Connor and the others were really enough to catch up to a few celebrities. The reporters had completely lost control and completely forgot their original purpose. They screamed and madly rushed toward the boxing all-star lineup led by Bonner Pierce. They ran madly, the spears in their hands flashing crazily. Chapter 1072. Further away, more than half of the fans who had been crowding around the stage of The Sunshine Man, which had just ended, had come out and were rushing over to the stage. In the United States, which advocated the philosophy of the strong, fighting superstars had an unimaginably large audience. In another corner, the halfway through the premiere of July in Florence, was even more awkward. The stars who were enjoying the attention and spotlight of countless fans suddenly realized that more than half of the people in front of them had run away. Well, this was not the most awkward thing. The most awkward thing was that at the booth of Sunshine, several stars who were supposed to be in the theater for the premiere were screaming and rushing over like ordinary fans. Well, it was the same for July. Stars would also worship stars, especially superstars who crossed industries. Just like how Kobe and Messi appreciated each other, and how Jordan and Jackson regretted not meeting each other earlier. If it was just one or two fighting superstars, it probably wouldn't have caused such a sensation. However, the lineup behind Bonner Pierce was too luxurious. It included boxing champions from all major fighting fields, from WWE to K1, and from the lightweight to heavyweight boxing champions. There were at least 50 or 60 people, and each of them was very important. To each their own. There was bound to be one that suited you. This group of people together, according to their net worth, was like a moving $100 billion. The smile on Ben Affleck's face froze like cold water splashed into a pile of snow in winter. Donald's shoulder was bumped several times by the passing reporters, and he almost fell to the ground. He shouted in exasperation, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" On the other side, William Jones struggled to pull the young man next to him, the second male lead of Sunshine. "Baluan, are you crazy? Calm down. Calm down. This is our premiere." The onlookers had already rushed to the periphery of the fighting all-star lineup. Fortunately, these people had more or less brought bodyguards. The strong bodyguards formed a line hand in hand, forming a human wall that blocked all the reporters and the crowd outside. The fast-moving onlookers screamed as they pulled out their phones and clicked on the all-star lineup. They couldn't wait to share the scene in front of them on their social networks. "Elena, look who I ran into. Look at what kind of people they are. Oh my God. I'm so happy that I'm going crazy. Son, come to the plaza outside the Huaxia Theater in Hollywood. Your favorite verbal cannon, Connor, is here." And so on and so forth. The super luxurious all-star lineup drove everyone into a frenzy. The smile on Chen Guang's face became brighter and brighter. "Brother, you're the best. You've saved my life. How proud." The comfort in his heart wasn't any worse than the old man's comfort when he was in the realm of true martial arts and held the position of martial saint in his hands. At that moment, only the employees of the Tianguang group remained calm. The reason was very simple. They were extremely puzzled. "We didn't contact these big shots. If I'm not wrong, any one of the all-star lineup should have an appearance fee of more than $500,000. That's a moving appearance fee of $25 million. We don't have such an exaggerated budget for a premiere, right?" Lu Xiaoyang muttered to himself. "D***MN. What kind of luxurious lineup is this? An all-star lineup of WWE, UFC, and professional boxing? Boss, is today Muhammad Ali's anniversary? Or did these brothers come to the wrong place? Are they next door?" Fang Tianyu nodded vigorously. "That's right, that must be it. The other side's budget is through the roof. I've finally seen a tycoon who's more prodigal than you, boss." Chen Guang gave the two of them a kick each. "Go to hell, they're all on the same side. Brothers, you're all here because of this old man's face. This face of the old man can be sold for tens of millions of US. Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu were silent. Then, they stared intently at Chen Guang's face. "No, what we're looking at is not a face. It's a shiny, shiny cash. Boss, your face is going through the roof, isn't it? Your face is definitely gilded. Can't you see who these people are?" At this moment, Chen Guang was also puzzled. He had no idea what method Pierce used to convince these people. Forget it, that's not important. What's important is that they're here. Today's situation is under control. No matter what, tonight's news is going to be written. Finally, the internet isn't full of negative reports. Bro Pierce, you helped me a lot. Make the arrangements immediately. Scatter flowers. Take pictures. Write a press release. Give out books to everyone. That's right, give out books. We can't afford it if we don't give out money. Chen Guang waved his hand and instructed as he walked to the center of the stage to welcome Bonner Pierce with a smile. The two approached each other and gave each other a bear hug. Chen Guang whispered into the black man's ear. Mr. Pierce, how did you do it? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Bonner Pierce smiled and patted Chen Guang's back. It's simple. I told them that you're the world's strongest fighting king, no matter in which field. They weren't convinced at first. Then, I showed them the video of you testing the machine at my villa. They were all shocked. Then, I told them that you didn't even use your full strength at that time. They were even more shocked. I told them that if they were willing to help you, you would teach them how to use force. As for why I didn't tell you in advance, don't you feel surprised? How is it? Exciting, right? Chen Guang nodded. Pierce had grasped these people's weakness. That's why he could fool them. At their level, what they lacked was not money but power. More powerful power. It was more precious than gold. Of course, Pierce's identity was also very important. He was a big shot in the North American boxing world, and a top boxing coach with a wide range of contacts. Only his words were credible. Everyone in the fighting and boxing world knew what kind of person Bonner Pierce was. He would never joke about his personal credibility. If it were anyone else, there would be people in the world who could beat 10 of you. They would probably be pressed to the ground by Connor and the others, and repeatedly rubbed until their parents couldn't recognize them. Chen Guang was very grateful. He patted Bonner's back tacitly. Thank you. Mr. Pierce, you've helped me a lot. It's so exciting. My heart almost stopped beating. Bonner Pierce smiled. Actually, I heard that you played a retired boxer in your movie. I'm very sorry that I didn't get to see you fight professionally. It was a very rare experience to see you play a boxer in a movie. I still remember the first time we met. You were performing Ali's butterfly moves in the coffee shop. I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life. Although you're Asian, I think you look more like Ali than Will Smith. Thank you for your encouragement. You're almost the first American to truly recognize my acting skills. Don't be discouraged. When Will Smith wanted to play Ali, we laughed at him like crazy. You're being doubted now because people don't understand you. You're always challenging different fields. I like your constant challenging of the impossible. You're a very different Huaxia person. Alright, we've been hugging each other for too long. Let's go and welcome our other friends. Otherwise, people will think we have some special relationship. Okay. Chen Guang turned around and greeted the many big men warmly. Among them were a few acquaintances he had met at Pierce's house. Meeting them again now was quite a unique feeling. After all the martial arts superstars stood on the stage one after another, Chen Guang cupped his hands. Everyone, thank you. Thank you. Chen Guang had originally planned to express his gratitude to these martial arts big shots excitedly. However, since Pierce had already bragged about his abilities, he could not let down the title of the world's strongest martial artist. He had to show the demeanor of a Huaxia master. Many of the martial arts big shots did not stand on ceremony with him. One by one, they learned his Huaxia etiquette and cupped their hands. Chen Guang's face was filled with a big smile. No matter who it was, even if it was a few beggars at this time, it would be a life-saving grace to him. What's more, these people were extremely popular. What about a top big shot? Although in terms of real martial arts, these people combined might not even be enough to fill the gaps between Chen Guang's teeth. However, what he needed now was famous reinforcements, not how good they were at fighting. He was very satisfied with the current show's effect. Very satisfied. There was only one flaw. Bonner Pierce, that black bro, should have informed him earlier. His little heart was scared out of its wits. Chen Guang, who was standing in the crowd, cast his gaze to the back of the crowd below the stage. There stood Donald Joshdan alone. The old man's face turned green and white. Even a blind man could see how embarrassed he was. He had already asked around in the entertainment industry. Indeed, there was no heavyweight who had accepted the invitation of women. Since yesterday, he had been waiting to see today's joke. However, he did not expect that even though there was no one from the entertainment industry, the big shots in the martial arts and martial arts circles who had come were not any less influential than the entertainment industry. Damn it! This group of well-developed but simple-minded idiots. You will ruin the movie. Do you think you're helping him? You'll become the sinners of the entire movie industry. You'll be deserted by everyone. Donald waved his hand fiercely and turned to leave. There was nothing he could do. Chen Guang cast his gaze to a place further away. It was William Jones and the others, who had been so proud of themselves. They had finally calmed down their friend, who was about to lose control of his emotions. The group of people turned around and walked into the cinema dejectedly. At this moment, the most embarrassed people were probably the crew of July and Florence, who were still walking the red carpet. The smile on Ben Affleck's face had already completely frozen on the spot, and the other main creative team and premiere guests around him were not much better. Although there were still some hardcore fans in the crowd, and a few media reporters who had not left, who knew what they would write when they went back. The security guards who had been hired to maintain order on the rather luxuriously decorated stage and the edge of the red carpet looked bored. There were only a few people in front of them. The people of July finally understood a little of what Chen Guang was feeling. It felt as if they were dressed up and confidently appeared on stage, but the audience booed. Damn clowns, a bunch of clowns. They must have taken money from the Chinese people. They are a disgrace to the upper class. A disgrace. Ben Affleck spat heavily on the red carpet beside him. The other people of July nodded. They did not think about how awkward it would be for Chen Guang to be targeted like this. They only thought that they were unhappy and wronged. Forget it, let's go in. The premiere is over. Our premiere is over. Ben sighed. He knew that cursing would not help. At this moment, another group of people appeared at the end of the red carpet. 4 women. Chapter 1073. Chen Guang looked over from afar. He was stunned at first, then overjoyed. It's Tang Ying. Why is she here? Of course, if it was just Tang Ying, Chen Guang would be happy but not happy. However, there were many silver-haired old men beside Tang Ying. Although Chen Guang did not know these people, judging from the way they walked, he subconsciously felt that they should be of high status. Pierce, who was behind Chen Guang, immediately identified the person and answered Chen Guang's doubts. Strange, why is the president of Moreland's Medical College here? Chen Guang quietly turned his head. Mr. Pierce, do you know them? Pierce nodded vigorously. Of course, the president of Moreland's Medical College is the most famous sports medicine expert in the United States. I also know the one beside him, the best oncologist in the United States. Oh, and Mr. Bryant, the president of another medical college, the best brain doctor in the world. If you want to hire him for surgery, no amount of American dollars will move him. He must be happy. Oh my God. As a top boxing coach, Bonner Pierce obviously had a deep understanding of the European and American medical community. He could recognize about half of the dozen old men and women beside Tang Ying. Although he could not recognize the other half, they should be of the same level in the medical community. What are these people doing here? While Bonner was thinking about this, Chen Guang had already taken the lead to greet them. He and Tang Ying gave each other a big hug in accordance with the American etiquette. Bonner suddenly realized that they were all on Chen Guang's side, just like him. Sister Tang Ying, what's going on? I heard that you're about to embarrass yourself. We just settled the matter of the Joint Research Institute a couple of days ago. Coincidentally, my supervisor and I are attending a medical conference in Los Angeles. It's very close, so I was thinking of inviting them over to watch a movie. You have to be more humble and act like a junior. There are 2 winners of the Nobel Prize in Medicine among them. Chen Guang's expression instantly brightened. A Nobel Prize winner was already worthy of respect, let alone a Nobel Prize in medicine that saved lives. Although these old gentlemen were not as famous as the Brawl Kings, they were more influential. It can't be that simple, right? How did you convince them? Don't they know I'm stinking? I showed them the video of you competing in the World Arm Wrestling competition. I also told them that you are a senior official of China, and no one can force you to do anything. If we want you to cooperate with us, we have to return the favor first. Besides, these old pedants don't really care about the gossip in the entertainment industry. Chen Guang immediately understood. F***ck, you're selling my jeans just like that. Forget it, this is not important. In any case, this old man no longer has to worry about being used as a guinea pig. Tang Ying is right. If you want to obtain this old man's essence, Apui genes, then you have to make this old man happy first. Will there be high-frequency gene harvesting in the future? I'm afraid my body won't be able to keep up. Scram. Dream on. One harvest is enough to last you for a few months. And I'm the only one harvesting it. Do you hear me? Okay. We've been hugging for too long. Chen Guang quickly let go of Tang Ying and greeted the group of old men and women behind him. They shook hands and chatted cordially. After greeting everyone, Chen Guang felt a chill down his spine. F***CK. I should avoid making friends with people in the medical field in the future. I feel like they're looking at me, like I'm a specimen soaked in formalin. The media reporters and spotlights were still flashing nonstop. Unlike Chen Guang's ignorance, the well-informed media immediately recognized the principal and two other Nobel Prize winners. The reporters almost went crazy. Just what kind of groundbreaking movie premiere did we just get to witness? Although the guests had almost nothing to do with the movie, this was a bit too much. Even our comrade Ao Guanhai had to make an appointment to meet these big shots in the medical field. They actually gathered together to attend the premiere of a Huaxia movie. At this time, the countdown had reached 7:58, 2 minutes before the movie premiere. The superstars of the fighting and boxing world had already been led inside by the staff of the Tianguang group. On the stage, it was the medical giants who appeared. But this was not the end. Another group of people appeared. Chen Guang continued to look up. There were another 10 people, tall and short, fat and thin, ranging from middle-aged to old. The people who came were people he had defeated before. The world's top pianist, Raven Holland, the beautiful Portuguese pianist, Christina, the French piano master, Pires, the American piano master who had also lost to him, and many others he did not know at all. Finally, a big shot who was related to the entertainment industry, but not the movie industry, had appeared. Chen Guang did not expect that these people who had lost to him in the past would stand up for him with such a clear attitude when he was deserted by the whole world. This was all a pleasant surprise. You guys gave me face today, but in fact, you guys recognized me as a person. If not for today's special occasion, Chen Guang would not have thought that he would be so popular. However, this was not the end. Behind the big shots of the piano world, another dense group of people appeared. Chen Guang clenched his fists, showing that he was stunned. Dominic Diesel walked at the front, followed by Pan Juniao from Thailand, Speed from the Rainforest from Brazil, Frank from Detroit, and so on. 6 of the top 10 underground car kings who had a duel with Chen Guang had come. There were 3 or 4 people beside them. They seemed to be keeping a low profile beside the kings of the underground racing world, but the knowledgeable reporters recognized them at a glance. They were this year's newly crowned F1 champion Hamilton, the WRC Rally champion Baralt, and the Dakar Rally champion Mendeleev. The big shots of the racing world had also come to support Chen Guang. Behind them, there was a group of middle-aged men and women in uniforms. Chen Guang looked at their uniforms and the familiar faces walking at the front and recognized them. They were the big shots of the civil aviation world, the CEOs of several civil aviation groups around the world. Behind this group of big shots in uniforms, there was a group of young and old men and women. Chen Guang also remembered them. They were the big shots of the global linguistics world, who had dealt with him at the World Language Conference and ended up parting on bad terms. He thought that he would not have to deal with them again, but he did not expect them to come quietly. Obviously, the monograph he wrote later had a great impact on them. Although because of their age and skin color, these people were not willing to express their recognition, gratitude, and appreciation on social media. They were still grateful and recognized his great contribution in linguistics. This was not the end. Behind this group of language experts and scholars, there was a group of young people. The young people obviously did not expect that there would be such a big scene today. They were a little reserved under the cameras and flashes of the reporters, and their footsteps on the red carpet were slightly shaky. Chen Guang could see that they seemed to be retreating. They seemed to regret coming here today. They were not very confident. Therefore, Chen Guang directly stepped over everyone who was walking over and waved at these young people from afar. The youngsters' spirits were immediately lifted, and they followed closely behind the linguists. These young people were the world's top Dota players in America at this time. Comrade Mao Yongren, Babiv RTZ, and so on. Although they were not famous among ordinary people, they were extremely popular among the young people, especially in the Dota player circle. On the other side, many young people ran under the stage of July. Both sides were their idols, and after weighing the two, they still felt that they liked esports more. In just a few minutes, the originally incomparably shabby premiere of Women had become a dazzling scene. Although these celebrities had almost nothing to do with the movie, all the guests added up. Whether it was the weight or the grandeur, it was not inferior to the opening ceremony of Paris Fashion Week. This kind of extravagance was more than enough to support a mere movie premiere. Chen Guang looked calm on the surface, but he was already laughing in his heart. The old man's years of doing good deeds had not been in vain after all. There were still many people in this world who recognized him. The brains of the movie's main cast and guests had already crashed. William Jones and the others sitting in the cinema were not much better. Donald, who had simply run straight home, was even more exasperated. He had seen everything through the photos and videos sent by the theater staff. Although the premiere at his Hollywood Huaxia theater was of a higher level, in a sense, it also made him proud. But that was not what he wanted. Damn it. Donald's heart was filled with indescribable regret. If he had known this would happen, he would not have given Women such a large venue. He should have given him a small corner. Now he had gone for wool and come home shorn. Instead, he had made this shameless Chinese proud. Every time Women had a heavyweight guest, it was a hard slap to the faces of Donald and the other filmmakers. This meant that the entire movie industry had disregarded everything and joined forces to boycott Chen Guang's movie. But they had suffered a heavy blow. In order to organize a good premiere, how much did Chen Guang spend? A few $100 million? No wonder he had always been so confident. It turned out that he had already prepared for this. That damn despicable person. Jenny, where are you? Bring me the heart medicine. Sir, Madam went out with her friends from the community service station 5 minutes ago. She said that she was going to participate in a charity event. Your medicine is with me, the old maid said respectfully, and took out a medicine bottle from her pocket. Chapter 1074. Donald lost control of his emotions and smashed his phone on the floor. I told her to just stay at home. Why did she have to participate in that damned community service? She's wasting her life. Sir, do I need to pass on your message to Madam? No. I was just joking. Please don't tell Jenny. After the maid left in a seemingly respectful manner, but was actually trying to hold back her laughter, Donald sighed again. He thought of his wife who was fierce, but did not like to manage the family's affairs. She was an extremely devout believer of the religion, and only indulged in community activities. He felt another headache coming on. Guys, hurry up. It's almost time, Mrs. Josh Dan. We've been waiting for you for too long. I'm sorry, everyone. I just had a phone call with my son in Boston. Oh yeah, what are we going to do today? Watch a movie. Movie. No, I hate movies. My old man only knows how to show movies, and my stupid son only knows how to make movies. I get a headache whenever I hear the word movie. No. This is a movie from China. Also, Mrs. Josh Dan, I have to tell you a piece of good news. Your husband, Mr. Josh Dan, wants this movie to have no audience at all. Recently, he has been going around asking his friends to boycott this movie. Really? Then why should we help him? Actually, it's my niece's request. She feels that the Chinese man is too pitiful. Jenny Josh Dan said. Alright, since it's a movie that even my husband wants to boycott, then I really want to watch it. If Donald, who was sulking at home until he had a heart attack, knew that the community service that his precious wife, Jenny, participated in was actually to watch Women, he would probably pass out from anger. At 8:05 p.m., the world premiere of Women finally started after a delay of 5 minutes, after a few twists and turns. The VIPs who followed did not stand on the red carpet or the stage for long for the media. Other than the Pierce squad, and the pianist squad. Who came first? The VIPs who came later did not have stage fright, but did not have much interest in being celebrities on the runway. Time did not allow for it either. They just took a few simple photos for the media, and then went into the cinema one after another. All the uninvited guests had just taken their seats, and the film had already begun, when Madame Josh Dan and her friends from the community service station arrived, led by the German girl and her aunt. Because of Chen Guang's promise, Screening Hall 14 skipped the process of checking the tickets. However many people from the community came, they would be allowed in, and everyone would be given a copy of the first volume of World Faction. Screening Hall 14, which could only accommodate 150 people, was filled to the brim. Including everyone, there were exactly 150 people. As for the reporters who changed their minds and wanted to attend the premiere, they were stopped outside by Chen Guang. The reason was simple. Although he used the face fruit to turn the tables at the crucial moment, this was only the first step in his counterattack. From now on, everything he did had to be more purposeful. Letting the reporters in today seemed like a good idea, but in fact, there was great potential danger. The preconceived and unscrupulous media personnel were harder to convert than the ordinary audience. Although there would definitely be some people who would become true fans of the movie, there would definitely be people who would be stubborn or greedy. Tomorrow, they would still criticize women with their brilliant writing. However, Chen Guang only needed to let the media people report on the premiere, and that was enough positive publicity. As for the real standard of the movie, there was no need for them to tell him for now. Even if they would lose part of the tap water, they would be able to avoid negative news first. The benefits of tap water were not as big as the disadvantages of the brainless haters. Not to mention the media people who were born with crooked butts. With his current popularity, the media people who came out of the cinema to write positive reports would be regarded as being paid to do things. But the media people who wrote negative reports would be regarded as having the conscience of the industry. Although this was unavoidable, there was no need to let them in since it was the world's first premiere, which was held 12 hours earlier than in China. Tomorrow, the situation at the Los Angeles premiere would be seen by all the major media, but only a few people went to watch it, and the media would not say anything about it. The international friends of Demi would definitely be very curious, and drive them to the cinema to find out what was going on. What exactly was this super bad movie that was going to be splattered all over the world? Chen Guang calculated in his heart, and determined that the benefits of rejecting the media first outweighed the disadvantages by 5%. That's right, it was that precise. As for the ordinary audiences that the German girl tricked from the community service station, Chen Guang did not particularly care about how much tap water these people could produce. If the number of people did not reach a certain level, it would seem insignificant. Standing at the entrance of the theater and listening to the prelude of the music, Chen Guang finally relaxed and let out a long breath when everything was on track. Lu Xiaoliang, who was standing next to him, saw this and asked, "Boss, now is not the time to rest, right? Although the premiere is full, the attendance at other places tonight won't be that high, right? Although we have a lot of big names helping us, it still needs time to ferment if we want to create a sensation on social media. We won't be able to make it in time for the 10:30 public screening, and there's no hope for the midnight screening after 12 o'clock. If we want to turn the attendance around, we'll have to wait until tomorrow at the earliest, right?" Chen Guang smiled and waved his hand. "It doesn't matter. Take your time. Everything is under control." Lu Xiaoyang looked at his confident smile and did not know what to say. Forget it, the boss has always been like this. But then again, the situation today was miraculously turned around. Although he did not do anything, didn't this mean that the boss was the son of Providence? He won by lying down. The boss was not only capable, but his luck was also heaven-defying. He should be more confident. If he was not confident, then shouldn't the rest of us hang ourselves? Lu Xiaoyang could not understand. In fact, the moment Theater 14 was full, Chen Guang had completely foreseen the situation in the next few days. Outside the theater, the reporters had not left yet. Inside the theater, some of the crew members who had just finished the premiere had not left yet. There were also some big names in the media circle who had attended other movie premieres, and they were also watching with great interest. Although they did not attend the premiere of Women, if they could get first-hand dirt from the audience, it would be an important report that could expand their influence. The crowd stood in groups of 2s and 3s in the theater aisle, whispering to each other. "It's 8:25 now. I bet $10 that someone will come out of Theater 14 within 5 minutes. I bet $100. 10 minutes. I bet $1,000. 5 minutes. Mr. Diaz, what do you think? You guys bet yourselves. I'm not interested. I'm a little sleepy, and I'm going to the hotel to rest. Markov, say hello to the dean of Wesley College for me." "No problem, but I have to wait for a while." "What? Are you worried that this movie from Huaxia will affect you? Don't joke around. You are not in the same genre. You don't have to care about them." No, Cameron. I got Theater 7 from them. I don't know why, but I feel a little uneasy." "Do whatever you want." The big shots in the media world didn't have the same worries as the film director. Now that everyone knew about the amazing scene at the premiere of Women, they also knew what kind of people were sitting in the number 14 screening hall. Apart from the dozens of old men and women in the community, the other guests were important enough to support a Dior, Louis Vuitton, or Bentley's global new product launch. They were surprised by the Chinese's unconventional approach. Since the people in the entertainment circle were boycotting him, he found guests from other places, and they were even more important. They were also happy that they finally had a new topic to write about. When the important guests left in advance, they, the big names in the media circle, would be able to directly interview them in the theater and let them express their feelings. This was a good thing for the new reporters, who were stuck outside, but could not get it. Some people were thinking about their position, wondering if they should change their position and speak for women and Chen Guang. At the same time, there were also people pondering how they should ask questions to guide the interviewee's thoughts, so that the interviewee would fall into a trap and say something that could be taken out of context to attack Chen Guang. If they could dig out some unfavorable information from the F1 champion, the WRC champion, and the superstars, they could use it to make a big article. Even the guests who had received Chen Guang's USD couldn't stand his movie. Thinking about it, was there anything worse than this? No one in the media thought that the guests of Women would appear for free. They silently estimated the appearance fee that Chen Guang could pay. Except for the big names in the medical circle whose value could not be accurately estimated, especially the 2 Nobel Prize winners, the appearance fee of the others would probably add up to hundreds of millions of USD, right? Not to mention this kind of movie premiere, which had its own negative impact on one's personal image. Stupid Chinese. Do you think you can control everything with money? Do you think you can turn the tables by finding some famous people? Don't you know that the higher the status of the people you find, and the more important they are, the harder it is to control their mouths? Don't you know that an ordinary person saying that your movie is not good 10,000 times is not as good as a simple word boring thrown by an authority in any field? Time passed bit by bit. In the aisles of the theater, people who chose to watch other movies came and went. The main production team of some movies could not stand the harassment of fans along the way, and quietly retreated. But the big names in the media circle did not waver. Gradually, they found that the situation was a little wrong. Half an hour passed, and no one came out of Theater 14. An hour passed and still no one came out. Chapter 1075. Some people tried to sneak up to the door of Screening Hall 14 to see what was going on, but they were stopped by countless burly bodyguards. What the hell? Why didn't anyone leave early? How would I know? Did the Huaxia people put superglue on their chairs? Did they stick their butts on it? It's not impossible. An hour and a half later, I'm already planning to write a script. An unprecedented scandal in the history of the film industry. Crazy Huaxia tycoons put their guests under house arrest in the screening hall to let people finish watching their trashy movie. What do you think of my title? It's pretty good, but you're too slow. I've already written it, and the meaning is similar to yours. I'll send it to the chief editor after the premiere. Can you two stop joking around? Would you dare to put a Nobel Prize winner under house arrest, even if you had 10 guts? And the CEOs of several airline companies around the world? Oh, and Big Shio, Mouthy Connor, John Sinon and Hamilton? What else? Can you give us a more reasonable explanation? Chen Guang's movie is especially good? How can these big shots whose time is like gold be reluctant to leave? That's ridiculous. As far as I know, many guests at premieres often just go through the motions at the beginning and leave very quickly. They can't finish watching the movie in the first place. This is the established rule in the industry. It's too hard to understand why these big shots would sit in the theater for 2 hours. Do you know how much Mouthy Connor gets to attend a fashion brand launch that only lasts for half an hour? $800,000. But they really haven't come out yet. Finally, a full 2 hours passed. The door of screening hall 14 opened with a loud bang. There was no scene that the reporters and the main producers of the other movies had imagined, and no one rushed out of the door. Everyone thought that the audience who was locked inside would flee in panic. Now they realized that they were wrong. The first to walk out were the big shots of the medical world. Each of them held a book in their hands and looked dazed. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. No one communicated with each other, nor did they whisper. They just frowned and fell into deep thought. Behind the big shots of the medical world were linguists and pianists. These people also seemed to be possessed. All of them were silent and had a book in their hands. The big shots of the media circle pounced on them in a frenzy. Mr. Neuer, may I ask if your personal freedom is restricted in the theater? Mr. Velan, how do you feel about this movie? Do you think Chen Guang's performance in the movie is worthy of an actor? Countless questions were fired from the mouths of the big shots in the media circle towards the big shots and the audience. Fortunately, the bodyguards brought by the fighting superstars were very strong. They formed 2 human walls and blocked all the reporters outside. Of course, these were all giants in the academic world. Unlike ordinary celebrities, the reporters did not dare to be as impulsive as they were to entertainment figures. But no one answered their question. It was as if they had lost their minds and were completely immersed in their own world, not paying attention to what was happening outside. The reporters' punches all hit the air, and they couldn't help but look at each other. What happened in the theater? This doesn't make sense, right? Even if it was a normal person, after watching a movie, they would more or less say something when asked by others. What was going on with them now? Could it be that the Huaxia people had drugged the theater and made everyone faint for 2 hours? That's even more ridiculous. This will land him in jail for a long time. What kind of trick did he use? A mysterious power from the east? Everyone in the theater was hypnotized. Finally, when some young faces appeared at the back of the crowd, the reporters and the other film staff watching the situation saw some different expressions. These young esports players were very excited. Behind the esports players were many big names in the martial arts circle. They were even more excited than the esports players. Mr. Sinon, may I ask if this movie? It's amazing. It's incomparable. I can't find any words to describe how perfect it is. I swear I've never seen such a perfect performance in my life. No, it can't even be called a performance anymore. Mr. Chen showed us the whole world. By the way, if you have the chance, I suggest you buy his book. It's the one in my hand. Before the reporter could finish his question, Sinon had already interrupted him and waved the first volume of World Faction in his hand. Mr. Sinon, what happened to the movie? The reporters continued to ask, unwilling to give up. The strong Sinon had a mischievous smile on his face. He blinked and said, "Why are you asking me? Can't you afford to pay for a movie ticket?" Mr. Damon from the Washington Post. Sorry, my mind is full of movies now. I can't wait to go back to the hotel and find a quiet place to read Mr. Chen's book. Sorry, I have to go. Sinon left quickly after saying that, even though the person who asked him was actually an acquaintance of his in the media circle. Further ahead, young esports players were also being interviewed. They were 10 times more excited than John Sinon. The reporters, who were trying to dig out some dirt from these people, found that they couldn't find an entry point to discredit the movie from the mouths of the brainless fans. who were so excited that they were talking incoherently about Chen Guang's movie. Perfect. It's never been so perfect. Chen Guang is the real best actor. I swear, Mao Yongren said. I'm proud that I have the same skin color and race as him. Don't ask me anything, and I don't want to talk to anyone. I've never liked movies, but tonight I realized how shallow I am. You really should buy tickets to go to the cinema, or you'll regret it for the rest of your life. The reporters didn't expect such a scene at all. The people who came out of the screening hall were acting so strangely. Did you mistakenly enter the legendary Amway group and get lectured? You guys are very abnormal. The reporters had seen classic movies with good reputation and box office, but they had never seen such a good movie that could make celebrities shamelessly flatter it without any bottom line. For a person like Sinan, even if he was paid, he couldn't brag about a bad movie like this. Otherwise, his personal image would be greatly damaged. This couldn't be called a good movie at all. This was Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, right? Finally, the old men, women and aunties from the community service station filed out at the back of the crowd. The reporters thought to themselves, we may not get a fair evaluation from the guests who have been paid, but it should be okay for us to interview the ordinary audience, right? They were doomed to get nothing from the celebrities, so they could only count on the ordinary audience. A noble woman dressed in luxurious clothes was surrounded by many people from the community service station. The reporters undoubtedly noticed her at the first moment. May I ask this beautiful lady, what do you think of the movie you watched today? The plump lady tidied up her slightly fluffy blonde hair, blushed and said excitedly, I don't know how to express my feelings at this time, but I can't wait to invite everyone in the world to the cinema. Wait a minute, aren't you Mrs. Joshdan? Someone recognized the noblewoman. Jenny Joshdan didn't feel that there was a problem at all. She pointed to her face and said, I am indeed Jenny Joshdan. Is there a problem? Isn't your husband? The reporter was slightly embarrassed. He wanted to say something but stopped. As a well-informed reporter in the industry, he naturally knew that Donald and his wife didn't get along. One was a crazy old man from the Joshdan family who loved movies, and the other was a lady from the aristocratic Edward family who hated movies. Their marriage from the beginning was a huge mistake. This was a taboo in the media circle. Whoever mentioned it would be hated by the petty Donald. Donald is Donald and I am me. But you used to hate movies. The reporter finally couldn't hold it in. Jenny was stunned at first, but she didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled and said, That's right, but that was in the past. From tonight onwards, I've changed my mind. I admit that movies are actually a very good art. In the past, I did hate movies for no reason, because I felt that this D*Ned thing first took away my husband, and then my son. But today, I understand that what I hate is only bad movies. The movies in the past weren't enough to make me feel moved and intoxicated. Now, I can roughly understand why my stubborn husband and equally stubborn son were willing to work so hard for this art. As soon as Madame Joshdan said that, the reporters and the other crew members who were eavesdropping at the side were completely stunned. In a sense, this was probably the highest praise that could possibly appear on Earth. It was only a 2-hour movie, yet Mrs. Joshdan, who hated movies and was said to have been a domestic abuser of Donald for more than 20 years, had a change of heart. The most outrageous thing was that she actually said that all the movies in the past were bad movies. And that was why she hated movies. Do you know how many people you've offended by saying that? You've negated all the works in the history of the human film industry for more than 100 years. All for the sake of today's movie. What's worse is that this movie has completely overshadowed your husband and son's decades of persistence. You're actually starting to understand their dreams? This is an AF*King movie. It's a hallucinogenic drug, right? Finally, the reporter who asked the first question reacted, and found another hot topic in time. Madame Joshdan, does this mean that you'll support your husband and son's career in the future? Madame Joshdan thought about it. Not necessarily. All right, I have to go home. I have a lot to talk to Donald about. After Jenny finished speaking, she turned to look at a huge camera at the side. It was a live broadcast from the Los Angeles Entertainment Channel. She pointed at the camera. Donald, I know you're watching TV. Don't fall asleep before I get home. Look at the book in my hand. You really have to learn it well. I'll also have a good discussion with you about the movies that you want to persevere in. After saying that, Jenny held the first volume of World's Pie in front of the camera. She paused for a few seconds before putting the book away. Then, she walked further and further away, surrounded by her fellow community members. Chapter 1076. At that moment Donald, who was sitting in front of the TV, almost fainted. His hands trembled as he picked up the heart medication and threw it into his mouth. My God. He felt like he had seen a ghost. At the same time, he was considering whether he should run away from home. He was worried that he would not be able to see the sun rise the next day when his wife came back. Meanwhile, the reporters finally saw the cover and title of the book. World School of Performing Arts, shocking. Alright, the long list of names was too long. Don't mind the details. The book was beautifully packaged, but it did not show the name of the publisher. It was probably a printed product produced by the Huaxia tycoon, Chen Guang, at his own expense. It could not be considered a publication. But what the hell was with the cover photo? That Huaxia man, Chen Guang himself? How shameless must you be to print your own photo on the cover of a book like that? Is this the performing arts monograph that you were talking about? I don't care how you wrote it, or what you wrote in it, or whether you wrote it yourself. But isn't it a little too shameless to use your own photo on the cover? You could probably land on the moon if you were to fold your skin in half. At that moment, Chen Guang was still standing at the entrance of Theater 14 with a smile. He greeted everyone who came out of the theater warmly, and expressed his gratitude. When most of the people had left, and the bodyguards had left one after another, he walked out surrounded by the employees of the Tianguang group. Mr. Chen, may I ask what you did to the audience in the theater? Chen Guang looked at the tall white reporter with a hooked nose and smirked. I played a movie for them, and gave each of them a book that I wrote. That's all. Impossible. You must have done something shameful. You Huaxia people have always been like this. Chen Guang snorted. Do you dare to bet your grandmother's health on me? I can sue you for racial discrimination. The white reporter's expression changed. I'm sorry, I didn't choose the right words. But I think your movie is definitely not as perfect as they say it is. It's not realistic. What did you do to Madame Joshdan? Chen Guang was stunned at first. Madame Joshdan? Who? You actually don't know. Jenny Joshtyne, wife of Mr. Donald Joshtyne. She just came out of the theater. After a brief moment of confusion, Chen Guang's anger quickly overflowed. I really don't know. F.A. Alright, that despicable Joshdan. I thought it would be enough to block the reporters. But he actually let his wife sneak into the audience. Is he trying to attack me himself? Despicable. Shameless. The reporters and the other crew members looked at each other. For some reason, they suddenly had a strong urge to strangle this man. Too much, really too much. You can't pretend like that. Madame Joshtyne praises you to the heavens, and you call her despicable. Doesn't your conscience reproach you? But this also proved a terrifying fact. Chen Guang really didn't seem to have done anything. He didn't even know what had happened in the theater. No, Chen Guang from Huaxia. This is a recording of Madame Joshton's interview that I just recorded with my phone. You can take a look. Chen Guang received the phone with doubt in his heart, but a brief moment later, his face had miraculously turned slightly red. Although it was quite comfortable to be praised, this kind-looking Madame Joshdan had praised him a little too much. Fortunately, he was thick-skinned enough. Anyone else would not have been able to take it. It was hard to believe that this was the wife of that sneaky old man Donald. This guy must have been a war doctor in his previous life. He must have saved at least 10,000 wounded people in World War II. He must have done a great service to be able to marry such a discerning and unique wife. Chen Guang, don't you feel ashamed? The reporter took the phone back and fired a shot at him. Chen Guang shrugged. Why should I feel ashamed? Do you think you can take such a heavy evaluation? Chen Guang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Why can't I take it? Have you seen my movies? Where did you get the right to speak? Suddenly the long corridor fell silent. Hearing Chen Guang's tone, He actually accepted Madame Joshton's crazy words. He felt no pressure, and felt that it was only natural. This meant that he really felt that he could suppress all the classic works in the history of the film industry. How arrogant! How arrogant! How arrogant and condescending! How belittling the heroes of the world! No, not only did he belittle the heroes of the world, but he also did not let go of the seniors of the film industry, who had passed away. Although they had always felt that this Huaxia man was especially arrogant, and had even been molded by public opinion into a devil who had suddenly appeared in the film industry. Many reporters were already mentally prepared for his possible attitude, but now they realized that they had been too optimistic about the situation. Or rather, this Huaxia man's arrogance was a little too exaggerated. Compared to his current performance, it was child's play for him to aim for an Oscar in his first movie. There was no limit to his arrogance. His arrogance and domineeringness had broken history, and his shamelessness had reached a new height of human shamelessness. Crazy, completely crazy. Have you eaten up the word modesty in your dictionary? Do you know what you're saying? Chen Guang instantly fell into a state of being criticized by thousands of people, but his expression did not change. He only looked at the crowd calmly. Are you guys done? His voice was very low, but it had an inexplicable majesty to it, causing the noisy corridor to return to silence in an instant. You guys are really strange. These words did not come from my own mouth, but from other people's evaluation of me and my work. Then, why are you guys questioning me here? Don't you think this is ridiculous? You guys have completely violated the professional ethics of a media person. You guys have been biased from the beginning, which is why you are saying such things to me now. The next show will start in half an hour. You haven't even watched it, so how can you judge my movie? It's just like how I have never seen your wife, but I say she is ugly. Will you be happy? After the premiere, even Joshton's wife had become his diehard fan. The movie's effect was better than he had imagined. Now Chen Guang had more confidence in his words. He couldn't be bothered to be courteous with the reporters, and decisively started to act like a rooster. The hook-nosed reporter, who had been scolded by him, did not agree. Your accusation is without reason. In my heart, my wife is the most beautiful woman in the world, and my doubts about you are reasonable. You have never acted in a movie before. Yes, but there is an absolute relationship between love and appearance. I can't see what your wife looks like from your face. Your sophistry. You can understand it that way, but it doesn't matter. There are still 15 minutes to 10:30. I advise you to hurry up, or I'm afraid you won't be able to buy the tickets for the first screening. In fact, he was bragging. The attendance at the Huaxia Theater in Hollywood would probably be very good, but there was no hope for the other theaters to make a comeback, at least for today. If they were nimble, they could run out of the Huaxia Theater in 10 minutes to another large theater. It should be very easy to buy tickets there. After saying that, Chen Guang turned around and left. After taking 2 steps, he turned back again, took a deep breath and said heavily, "Anyway, you won't believe anything I say now. No matter if I am low-key or arrogant now, you will still write about me in the news tomorrow. So, I will say it clearly. Yes, I do believe in one thing. You have to prick up your ears and listen carefully. My movie may not be perfect or the best, but my personal acting art will definitely be epic-making. Unprecedented. Enough to be recorded in the history books. Just like everything else I have done before. You'd better memorize every single word I said, because 100 years later, my words will appear in every film history course in every film academy." After saying that, he really left this time, leaving behind a dumbfounded face of the media and other film producers. Their brains were completely shaken to the point that their worldview was about to collapse. Everyone felt that something was wrong. What this Huaxia man said was too exaggerated. But now, no one could find an angle to refute him. No matter how tricky it was, they couldn't find an angle. This guy's premier reputation was too terrifying. In the face of such a reputation, many people were unconvinced and felt uncomfortable. But as Chen Guang said, they didn't go to the cinema, so it was useless to say anything now. Many people felt a faint sense of regret in their hearts. If they had known this would happen, they would have directly applied for the tickets to his premiere as a media reporter. At the beginning, they shouldn't have shown such strong hostility to him, and even deliberately ignored his premiere in order to distance themselves from him. Now it was too late for regrets. They had missed the breaking point of the news. It was said that people in the same industry were enemies. The other film producers had even more complicated thoughts. They had a strong urge to see with their own eyes what the movie that was praised looked like. But although they were tempted, they were hesitant. The decision to boycott him was the consensus of the entire film industry. If they went to watch his movie, wouldn't it be like providing him with box office? They would be laughed at if the news spread. Wouldn't they be laughed at? What if he really used special means to make others praise him against their will? Wouldn't they become even more of a laughingstock? They were in pain and hesitated. They were extremely tempted by the amazing reputation of the premiere of Women, but they couldn't make up their minds because of various reasons. Until a reporter who went there to buy the tickets for the first public screening rushed back and shouted, "Friends who want to watch Women, you have to hurry up. Those celebrities who just went out, and even those medical experts are outside, encouraging people to go to the cinema. It has already caused a sensation. Many people changed their minds at the last minute and decided to watch Women." The first public screening of this lousy movie in the Huaxia Theater is still in the number 14 screening room. And now there are only about 40 tickets left. Well, the person who was hesitating just now turned his head and forgot what he was thinking a second ago. Think again? If he thought again, he wouldn't be able to think anymore. Many big names in the media and other crew members rushed to the ticket counter crazily and almost started fighting. It was all because mobile phone apps were not popular in North America. Otherwise, everyone would be quietly competing for internet speed. Chapter 1077. The Sunshine Man and July in Florence were both about 2.5 hours long, and there were only 10 or 20 minutes left. But William Jones and Ben Affleck could hardly sit still in the cinema. They had already watched the film countless times. During the whole screening process, their attention was not on the screen. Instead, they lowered their heads and played with their phones, watching the limelight on social media. The decline at the premiere was irreversible, but in the hearts of the two strongest Oscar contenders, it was not important at all. They cared more about the reputation and box office performance of Women. Although they didn't take Women seriously before, the sudden change at the premiere left a lingering shadow in the hearts of all the people in the two production teams. Although they did not want to admit it, they were worried that they could not control it. At 8:10 p.m., the first report about the reputation of the premiere of Women finally appeared, which made the eyelids of the two crew members, especially the two male leads, twitch violently. Horrible reviews. How amazing was the premiere of Women? William and Bent unanimously rejected this headline, which was obviously written by someone Chen Guang had paid someone to write. They even refused to provide even one click for it. At 8:13 p.m., the second report appeared. It was from Damon, a well-known reporter from the Washington Post. He had previously been a staunch hater of Chen Guang and had even asked the art director of Sunshine for an interview. He was acquainted with the two crew members. Damon's headline was, "The Ghost Filmmaker from the East? He has utterly conquered John Heenan." The crew members of the two crew members, who had come for the Olympic film, could not sit still anymore. A small number of them chose to click on it to see what was going on. Both Damon and Heenan were celebrities that could not be ignored. 2 minutes later, the person who clicked on it extracted the content of the article and shared it with the people around him. The atmosphere of panic gradually brewed and spread in the two premiere theaters. At the same time, the third and the fourth, more and more reports appeared in the media and social networks. The influence of the premiere of Women, which had already caused a certain amount of popularity, was superimposed. It gradually became a torrent, as if it was going to sweep the entire internet. In the end, William Jones couldn't help but click on an article written by Gay, a reporter from Pan American Entertainment. The title of the article was "The Huaxia Movie Changed Madame Joshdam. Will Donald Joshdam be redeemed, or will he be subjected to more brutal violence?" This kid named Guy was actually William Jones' high school classmate. The two of them had always been on good terms. Guy also knew where he stood. William Jones couldn't accept the fact that his classmate had started to speak up for Chen Guang. He also had a strong desire to know what his classmate had written. Then he almost jumped out of his chair in shock. It was about the same on Ben Affleck's side. Only a blind person could not see the craziness on the internet. At 8:20 p.m., Sunshine and July were about to play the most important ending of the entire movie. But the huge premiere theater was filled with whispers that couldn't be hidden. The members of the media sitting in the back for the premiere couldn't help but whisper to each other, even though they knew it was rude to talk in the cinema. If it weren't for the publicity fees they received from the two film crews, these people would have rushed out. A question mark as tall as the Statue of Liberty appeared in everyone's mind. What kind of movie did the Huaxia man make? What kind of incredible movie gave him the confidence to spout nonsense like that? What made the audience, both celebrities and ordinary people, go crazy? What made Madame Joshdam instantly change, as if she felt the call of the Lord? Our premiere has completely turned into a farce. Listening to the annoying buzzing in the theater, the same thought appeared in William Jones and Ben Affleck's minds. They were angry and helpless. In the end, Donald Joshdam didn't escape. Instead, he took out the heart medicine and placed it on the desk. Then, he pretended to be in extreme pain and waited quietly in the study. That's right, so I won't get beaten up. Although Jenny has a bad temper, she still loves me. Donald comforted himself. At that moment, he was angry, confused, and panicked. But he was also extremely curious and regretful. Damn it, I want to see the Huaxia man's women. If I had known earlier, I would have personally checked the digital source of the movie. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the dark now. Also, what exactly is written in the book in Jenny's hand? The door creaked, and the heavy footsteps could be heard. It was Jenny coming up the stairs. Donald calmed himself down and silently flipped open the Bible in his hand. He read aloud. In the 4th chapter of Jonah, the Lord said, "Is it reasonable for you to be angry? The Lord is a gracious and merciful God. He does not get angry easily. Even if there is a disagreement, the servants of God should follow God's guidance and use a tolerant and merciful heart to accommodate all opposing opinions, whether it's your family, friends, or even strangers. Only when you are full of love can you have a pure life." Donald, the Bible doesn't contain the nonsense you added at the end. Jenny Joshdam stood in front of the study table and gently placed the first volume of Chen Guang's World Faction on the table. She admitted that she had the intention of twisting Donald's ear before entering the house. However, her old husband had even brought out the Gospel of the Lord and filled the table with heart medicine. What else could she say? Mrs. Joshdam, who suddenly understood her husband's pursuit in life, looked at her husband with a rare gentleness and love. Maybe it was because of the illumination of the orange table lamp in the middle of the night, or maybe it was because she was inspired by the Gospel of the Bible. Donald felt relieved. "I've passed the dangerous test. Thank God." "Jenny," his voice was slightly trembling. He did not know if it was because he was touched or nervous. Madame Joshdam sighed. "Donald, as you have said yourself, you also need a great and forgiving heart to be tolerant of others. You should really watch Chen Guang's movie. This is his book. I didn't read the content, but I'm sure you'll like it." Mrs. Joshdam pushed the first volume of World Faction, with Chen Guang's handsome face on it, forward slowly. It was placed in front of Donald, right next to the gold-rimmed Bible. Donald keenly noticed that his wife had a religious devotion in her eyes when she looked at the book. What the hell? This is too scary. Did Jenny attend Mass for 2 hours in Theater 14? He opened his mouth to speak, but Mrs. Joshdam had already turned to leave. "Remember not to read it too late. You have to sleep by 2 a.m. at the latest. You can read the rest tomorrow. I think I'll have to prepare 2 sleeping pills for you. I've set the alarm clock. I'll wake up before 2 a.m. If you're not asleep, you're screwed." As the study room door closed, Donald lowered his head to look at World Faction again. All right, it's Chen Guang's face again. This shameless Huaxia man's smile was so smug and sinister. Donald looked up at the time. It was almost 10:30 p.m. I wonder how the premieres of Sunshine and July are going? They'll probably be in a mess, right? I really shouldn't have left the theater. Now, as the person in charge of the Huaxia Theater, I don't even know anything. Donald blamed himself as he casually flipped open World Faction Performing Arts. Great, I don't have to see that annoying guy's face anymore. I don't believe you can write a useful book. The difference between the Huaxia film industry and the Hollywood film industry is like a 3-year-old standing next to Shaquille O'Neal. World Faction Performing Arts? Are you kidding me? I only know about performance school, experience school, and method school. What the hell is World Faction? Do you want to add another genre to the traditional 3 major performing genres? Do you think you're Van Gogh or Picasso? Can you be any more shameless? Where did you find a ghostwriter? How ignorant must you be to write such a book without any common sense? Donald skipped the title page and went straight to the preface. He still had a mocking look on his face. Although he had received a lot of feedback about women, and even his wife Jenny had changed, Donald still didn't think that Chun Guang could come up with a valuable book. Writing an academic book wasn't like telling a story. It had a high requirement for the author. Without years of experience, the book would only make people laugh. Moreover, this was the first time that Chun Guang, a Chinese internet celebrity, got shocked. He didn't know where he got the courage to go straight for the Oscars. As for writing a book on performing arts, it was even more ridiculous. Coupled with the name World Faction Performing Arts, it only proved how ignorant he was about the film industry and performing arts. The ignorant are fearless. You don't understand why the film industry only has 3 specific systems after 100 years of development. With such thoughts in mind, Donald almost burst out laughing when he saw the first line of the preface. Some people might think that my World Faction Performing Arts is the 4th system after the first 3, but you're all wrong. But you are all wrong. The Cosmopolitan School is above all performing arts. It is the general principle of the entire performing arts system. In the future, all the classifications of performing arts will be built on the foundation of the Cosmopolitan School, just like Newton's theorem for modern science. Donald almost broke down when he heard that. Chapter 1078. If it weren't for the fact that women's reputation had exploded, and that Jenny's words were still ringing in his ears, Donald would have grabbed the book and thrown it out of the window. Crazy, the whole world had gone crazy. If this kind of person had been born hundreds of years ago, he would have been burned alive on the stand. At the Huaxia Theater, the premieres of Sunshine and July were a complete mess. The comments and public opinion on the internet collapsed too. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was just a show, and they might be curious about the movie. For the fans of the celebrities who were the guests of women today, it might be a carnival. To be able to see so many superstars of the fighting world gathered together, even if it was just a walk on stage, it would be a grand celebration. However, for movie lovers and people in the European and American film and television circles, it was a terrible tragedy and disaster. Donald Joston's outlook on life and the world had collapsed too. However, the person who started it all, the person who almost turned the Huaxia Theater upside down, Chun Guang, was with Bonner Pierce and the others in a huge standalone villa in the wealthy area of Los Angeles. Now that everything was on track, Chun Guang only needed to finish writing the next volume of World Faction and throw the bomb out on time. He didn't have to worry about anything else. Although it would be a pity to waste an hour or two, since Mr. Pierce had made a promise, Chun Guang had to support him. It wouldn't be difficult to borrow a favor again. He planned to teach the 50 or so elites in the world of fighting, and boxing a lesson in one go. The lesson was simple. All of you come together. I won't use ancient Chinese martial arts. I'll only use my fists and legs and strength. If any of you don't fly into the pool in 5 minutes, I lose. If I sweat a drop, I lose. If anyone can touch me, it's my loss. Everyone, I understand how you feel, but listen to me. If you do it one by one like you want, it'll be meaningless. It'll be a waste of time. It's not that I'm stingy, but I can't describe how I trained my skills. Even if I say it and all of you hear it, you won't be able to learn it. What I possess is a power that completely surpasses the limits of human beings. I'm not talking about Huaxia's inner strength, I'm just talking about muscle strength. You can even think of me as a human from another era. And that's not wrong. But if you want to copy my training method, it's impossible. You'll die for sure. The death rate is 100%. Chen Guang stood by the side of the pool, surrounded by 3 to 5 scantily clad beauties in bikinis. They rubbed themselves against his body, but his expression did not change. He calmly explained to the boxing bosses. In the beginning, when he proposed the class method, these big shots who had helped him a lot today were actually very angry. Everyone felt that his friend was trying to fool them. Chen Guang owed him a favor, so he was exceptionally patient and explained a little more. As he explained, he pinched the stainless steel railing of the swimming pool with 2 fingers and exerted force in a very casual manner. The high-grade stainless steel railing, which was 8 millimeters thick, quickly deformed between his fingers. It was constantly being squeezed, and an ear-piercing and unpleasant crunching sound could be heard. When Chen Guang loosened his fingers, the part of the railing that was about 40 centimeters in diameter, that was pinched had completely turned into flat steel. Many people in the arena could twist and bend steel pipes. But to use only 2 fingers to pinch the railing to such an extent without a change in expression was completely beyond everyone's understanding. Are your 2 fingers a hydraulic press? Oh, my God. *T. WTF. What a terrifying Huaxia person. What the F***ck is he doing? These superstars, who were used to seeing the world, and were also the world's strongest boxing experts, were generally bewildered. What happened next was logical. In less than 3 minutes, Chen Guang turned the huge swimming pool into dumplings. Just as he said, there was not a single drop of sweat, and no one touched the corner of his clothes. Whether it was speed or strength, or even dynamic vision and brain reaction speed, Chen Guang was many times stronger than these top powerhouses who were already considered to be the limit of humanity. As for how strong he was, even he himself was not sure. He stood by the pool and looked at the people who were still soaking in the water with a smile. Everyone, what I can teach you for the time being is in the movements I made just now. Mr. Pierce recorded the whole process with a high-speed camera. You can use the high-speed camera to break down each step of my exertion of force. You should be able to clearly see my technique of exertion of force. This will be helpful to you. But as for how much you can understand, it will depend on each person's specific talent. In short, I am very grateful to everyone for today. Chen Guang's attitude was exceptionally kind. In his opinion, this was an equivalent exchange. What he took out was indeed his trump card. In the past, he had never taught anyone so formally in the past. On one hand, it was because others were not at that level, and they would not be able to master it even if he taught them. On the other hand, such an important skill, of course, could not be easily taught. Many of the big shots in the fighting and boxing world were soaking in the water. Everyone was taught a lesson by Chen Guang, but they were not the least bit unhappy. Their minds were filled with his movements just now. That, Mr. Chen, your training method? Seeing that Chen Guang was about to leave, someone still asked unwillingly. Chen Guang thought to himself and decided to brag. Before you, I also had a real disciple named Xue Lin. He was a Chinese soldier. Indeed, he went through my special training, and his pure strength increased by 40%, a very standard 40%. I do have a training method that can completely develop potential, but the mortality rate is as high as 90%. Xue Lin's luck to be able to survive makes me envious. But the mortality rate is too high. I am not confident, and I do not intend to teach it. If you want to obtain power beyond the limits of humanity, you must first be prepared to die. After that, he did not wait for the others to react, and said goodbye to Mr. Pierce. As for the fiery woman's resentful gaze, he completely ignored it. It was not that he was that righteous, but there was still the next volume of World's Faction waiting to be written. The sooner he went back, the sooner he could be at ease. If he was lazy and could not finish it the day after tomorrow, it would be embarrassing. This was a matter of life and death, and he could not be careless. The old man was wise. He could not drop the ball at a critical moment and die, because he could not control his crotch. After Chen Guang left, The people in the pool climbed out of the water one after another. Just as they were about to urge Bonner Pierce to organize the high-speed camera, Pierce reminded them, "Friends, you seem to have forgotten something." "What? Shouldn't you express your views on Mr. Chen's movie on your social media accounts?" Everyone suddenly understood. 10 minutes later, except for a certain idiot who forgot to take out his phone when he was fighting and couldn't send a message due to the water on his phone, the 50 or so people updated their Twitter, Instagram, and personal media in one go. They even competed with each other to see who could write more mushy praises. In the end, Big Xiao, who looked crude but was actually literary, won by an overwhelming margin. His story went like this. "For the first half of my life, I was just an ordinary person. Thank God for the talent I was given, allowing me to appear on the stage of WCW and WWE. On this stage, I obtained glory, wealth, money, and women. But most importantly, it changed me from Paul White to the Big Hugh I am today. It is because I am Biggie Hugh that I was invited by Mr. Pierce to walk into the Hollywood Huaxia Theater's Theater Number 14 today and see such an incredible and great movie. I fought for the first half of my life just for this movie tonight. If you are my fans and want to know why I am so fanatical, even more fanatical than I was at WrestleMania, don't hesitate and rush to the theater next to you as fast as you can. Mr. Chen is waiting for you with his women." Everyone agreed with Big Xiao's flattering story. His flattery was innovative. It was like listening to thunder in silence. He used simple and seemingly ordinary words to boast to a new height. This flattery was both deep and broad. The key was that his personal reputation and the movie's reputation were completely tied together. It was not as superficial and straightforward as ordinary praise. More than 50 top fighting and boxing superstars updated their social media accounts at the same time, talking about the same thing and praising it crazily in unison. Finally, they called on their fans to go to the theater. What kind of sensation would it cause on social media? At first, fans who had only followed their accounts thought that the most serious case of account theft in history had happened before they could see the latest news. It was not until later that countless fans took the initiative to search for today's news and found out that they really attended the movie premiere together, that their doubts were gradually dispelled. Then, because of their idol's call, they developed a strong interest in the movie. It wasn't just these people. The geniuses of America's Dota Tower, the big shots of the global racing and underground drag racing world-renowned piano masters, linguists, medical giants, and even 2 Nobel Prize winners all spoke out on this night. Several big shots in the civil aviation industry even had the idea to organize watching the movie in their own companies. They learned from the common practice in Huaxia. The companies paid the bill and forcibly increased the box office. Just as Chen Guang stayed up all night writing, the storm of women was about to sweep the world. At the same time, in Huaxia, 12 time zones away, the real premiere that was even grander than that in Los Angeles finally began. Big Beard Deng led the other main cast members apart from Chen Guang to suppress the scene. The scene could be said to be full of gongs and drums. No one could tell from Big Beard's smiling face how uncertain he was at the moment. Poor Big Beard did not know that Chen Guang had instantly turned the tables in Los Angeles. He was still worried about Chen Guang's one-person premiere in Los Angeles. He was even more worried that the negative comments from the global uproar would affect the box office of women in Huaxia. As for the North American box office, what was that? Was it edible? Did it taste good? Chapter 1079. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage, dressed in luxurious dresses, stood side by side on the red carpet. They skillfully posed in either dignified or lively and lovely poses. For a moment, countless films were wiped out. After the photo shoot, the two of them continued to walk to the stage side by side. Jiang Yage quietly turned her head and whispered, "Chen Guang is so pitiful. We should have gone to Los Angeles to help him." Jin Shiyue's lips moved slightly. "It's useless. Although we are famous in China, we don't have many fans in Europe and America. Even if we go, no one will buy it." Jiang Yage said, "Sai, it's all Grandpa's fault. If he didn't refuse, I could have asked Mr. Fong or Mr. Zhou to help him. Jean Shirua still shook her head. Although they are famous in Europe and America, they are still Chinese. The problem that Chen Guang is facing now is not that the audience doesn't know him, but that his popularity is almost on par with Bruce Lee. But it's useless. He has been set up as the opposite of the movie. Even if we pull people from China over, it won't change the European and American audience's opinion of him and women. Jiang Yage nodded helplessly. That's right. They will also lose their reputation. Alas, my dear Light, this is a very unconventional course of his. Although we all think that he can win an Oscar with his acting skills, it's too rushed. Jean Shirua pondered for a moment. I think he probably has his own difficulties. No matter what, we must help him stabilize the domestic box office. Although the Oscars don't care about the box office, there are still some benefits. If we can make the domestic box office reach a phenomenal level, it can make up for the loss of the North American box office to a certain extent. Jiang Yage tapped on her phone. Yes, I just posted on Weibo. What did you post? If the box office exceeds 500 million, I will release the highlights of the kissing scene. If it exceeds 1 billion, I will release the highlights of the sex scene. If it exceeds 2 billion, I will release the highlights of the light. If it exceeds 4 billion, I will. Forget it, I haven't written that yet. Are you crazy? We don't have any tidbits at all. All the scenes with him were done in one take. Jiang Yage shrugged. Why don't we just ask Chen Guang to take some shots? You can do that. On the other hand, at 1 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles, the North American box office data for the premiere of Women was released. The total screening rate was 0.67%, the occupancy rate was 9.3%, and the total box office earnings were less than $1 million. Extremely low screening rate, extremely low attendance rate. It looked terrible, but it was completely disproportionate to these numbers. What was even more shocking was the extremely high reputation. Although the first public screening at the Huaxia Theater was completely full, it still took time for things to develop. The social media accounts of the famous guests were also a little late. The overall attendance of the first public screening in other cinemas in Los Angeles was still not high. When the data was zoomed into the United States, the average attendance was even lower. Later, the attendance of the evening screening was incredibly higher than that of the first public screening. It was a pity that it was already past midnight, so it was not included in the box office statistics on the day of the premiere. Chen Guang didn't care about what was going on outside the window. The poor employees of the Tianguang Group were heartbroken by the terrible attendance rate. Sitting in the temporary office, Fang Tianyu whined with dark circles under his eyes. There's no reason. Our premiere is so powerful. Even if the first public screening can't be a blockbuster, it should at least be at least 10% of the seats, right? Our screening rate is already low, and the attendance rate is still low. What kind of hatred does our international friends have? Lu Xiaoyang comforted him. Fang, don't worry. Even if we can make a comeback at the premiere, it will take time for the news to spread, right? Even if many people want to change their minds because of the guests, it is already night time. Most people won't go out at night just to watch a movie. Let's wait and see. There should be a surprise in the attendance rate tomorrow. We can't do anything about it on the day of the premiere. How can you be so calm but face? You don't understand, Fang Tianyu. After staying with the boss for a long time, I feel that I have a tendency to be like the boss. Look at my face. Don't you think I have the demeanor of a general now? It's hard to say about the demeanor of a general, but you are really crazy. Screw you. After talking for a while, and communicating with Yu Hong in China, they forcibly encouraged Chen Guang's inexplicable confidence. After that, they went back to the hotel, and went to sleep with their own thoughts. The next morning, the sun rose as usual, and everything looked so ordinary. But no one knew that this would be the most crazy day in the history of movies. When the future generations recalled this day, they couldn't help but tremble with fear. At 9:30 in the morning, the ticket seller of the Huaxia Theater in Hollywood opened the ticket window sleepily as usual. The first screening of the day was at 10 o'clock in the morning, but there were usually few audiences in the morning. Maybe the first movie tickets would be sold at 9:50 in the morning. The ticket seller thought to himself as he raised his eyes and looked forward. Wait, are my eyes playing tricks on me? What's going on? The ticket seller rubbed his eyes to make sure that he wasn't seeing things. Looking out from the window, he saw a long line of people winding through the window, all the way to the stairs 20 or 30 meters away. There were obviously people lining up at the bottom of the stairs. The ticket seller stretched his neck and looked down. He actually saw the long line on the square through the stairs. The line was at least 100 meters long, right? Am I dreaming? The poor ticket seller pinched his thigh hard to make sure that he was awake. This kind of queuing situation was not uncommon in the Huaxia Theater. But that was only at night. It was impossible to get in during the day, especially the first screening in the morning. 2 tickets for women, please. Just when the ticket seller was in a daze, the strong man at the front of the line had already shouted, Okay. The ticket seller didn't expect that his busy work would start so early. Half an hour after the morning screening, the real-time statistics of the North American box office were released. The screening rate of women was still only 0.67%. As a big new movie, it was hard for people to look at it directly. It was even worse than a roadside picnic. However, the attendance rate of women had completely reversed. It even made people in the European and American film circles fly into a rage and scream horribly. 99.8%. Almost 100% attendance rate for the morning screening. What kind of concept was this? This was going against the natural order of things. No, it was already going against the natural order of things. How many years had it been since such an attendance rate had appeared in the history of movies? Even the popular Titanic couldn't achieve this in the primetime slot. After all, many people didn't like to sit in the first row or in the corner, even if they had to wait for the next screening. There was really no need to squeeze everyone in the same theater and push the attendance rate to an insane 99.8%. Although he didn't want to admit it, this was close to a historical 100% attendance rate. But it was still in the morning. In the afternoon and evening, this terrifying figure was very likely to be obtained by him. We were still frantically boycotting this movie yesterday. Today, you made its attendance rate soar to a historical level. How could we accept this? What was this? The biggest irony? The people in the film circle thought of the news report they saw last night, and then thought of Chen Guang's horrible guests who fell from the sky, and felt like crying. They thought that the people in the circle would unite to call on their own fans, or fans to boycott him. And that would be enough to make him leave dejectedly. Before his premiere, everything had looked perfect, but in the last 5 minutes, he had turned the tables around. That's right. Everyone thought that those guests were invited by Chen Guang. No one believed that the guests came uninvited. Even if someone told them the truth, they would not be willing to accept it. They would only feel that the world was broken. Sinan, these well-developed idiots. And those who were engaged in academics. Did your brains go bad from learning medical language? You idiots, Raven, Holland and Pires. You're all world-renowned piano artists after all. Don't you have any artistic pursuits? Don't you understand how ironic his behavior is? And those racers. Hamilton, don't you have any sense of social responsibility? Do you know what kind of people you're supporting? I heard that there are some esports players who don't do their jobs. And there are idiots who only know how to fly planes. In the words of the Chinese, you are all helping the wicked. On the second day of its screening, women achieved a 180-degree reversal in the number of seats from hell to heaven. It's precisely because you idiots who have no conscience, no standpoint, and no respect for art went against your conscience, dug your eyes out, and spread ignorant comments on the internet that flattered such a lousy film without any bottom line. The influence of the F1 champion, the WRC champion, and the Dakar champion was undoubtedly world-class. The influence of boxing superstars such as Sinan, Verbal Cannon, and Mayweather was also world-class. These people mobilized their fans to support women, coupled with their flattering words that would make people blush, would inevitably make some people who did not usually go to the cinema pay for tickets. There were many people who went to watch the movie, but the screening rate was extremely low. The direct result was, of course, that the attendance rate exploded on the spot. The heavenly Tao reincarnated. Everything had long since been predestined. The audience that provided 9.3% attendance rate for women yesterday was less than 10,000 people. They must have all been paid by the Chinese. There were less than 10,000 people in the audience that attended 9.3% of the seats for women yesterday. All of them must have been paid by the Chinese to be fake reviewers. Or else, how could the so-called ordinary people on the internet, who claim to be neutral, and just an ordinary audience applaud so uniformly? Rotten Tomatoes fresh 98.7%. There were less than 100 votes. And the only negative comment was even a tie. Sorry, my hand slipped and I clicked the wrong button. What was this? IMDb score of 10 points. Okay, the number of voters was also less than 100. What was this? Just how shameless and deranged a person must be to be able to bribe the internet water army so brazenly. Okay, in short, with your shamelessness and the torrent of yuan, you successfully swindled a terrifying 99.8% attendance rate this morning. But now there were nearly 100,000 people in the audience. We don't believe that your torrent of yuan can still play a role. At noon, when the negative comments started to appear, maybe you could continue to increase the attendance rate in the afternoon. But at the peak hour in the evening, the negative comments would show your true colors. At this point, the people in the European and American film industry could only hope for this. Chapter 1080. At the same time, the box office statistics for the opening day in Huaxia were finally released. The data looked very worrying. In the beginning, Big Beard Deng and everyone else were aiming to reach the top of the premiere. But now, it seemed that they had been affected by external factors. The box office on the opening day was more than 30 million yuan, the third place in the country. As a film directed by Deng Xiaojiang, it had Jiang Yage, Jin Shirue, Ren Chong, Zhou Ye and Zhao Yueling. More importantly, the super internet celebrity Chen Guang's first electrocution was used as a gimmick. It had been popular in China for half a year, and it had too many hidden advantages over ordinary films in terms of publicity. However, it fell to the third place on the opening day, which was a heavy blow to them. In Europe and the United States, they also paid close attention to the box office of women in Huaxia. After they got the statistics, they finally let out a long sigh of relief, and then gloated and wanted to celebrate. You deserve it, you shameful Huaxia people. You deserve it. Even your own countrymen don't like you. In your own words, you are trapped in a cocoon of your own making. At this time, Chen Guang, who was writing in his room, also heard the bad news from Huaxia, but he did not panic. He comforted the four masters with a few words, and then continued to concentrate on writing the monograph. He was so calm that Yu Hong thought that he might have met a fake boss, because he knew that from now on, the reputation of his film should be like 10-years-old wine suddenly opened, and the fragrance should spread 10 miles away. At 12:30 noon, the North American audience who had finished watching the film in the morning began to share their experience on their social media, or in front of their colleagues, classmates, and even neighbors. Even if they were unwilling to say it, others would take the initiative to ask if they knew that they had watched the film. Although there were countless negative rumors about women in North America, and it was almost boycotted by the whole people, the side benefit was that the film had a wide popularity that was completely disproportionate to the box office. Few people watched it, but almost everyone knew about it. This was a strange phenomenon that had not happened in 20 or 30 years. After all, when the box office of other movies completely collapsed, it was mostly because the publicity was not good enough, and their popularity did not increase. They were quietly released, and then quietly went on a 3-day tour. Even if they died completely, they would not be able to make a comeback. The popularity of women had been boycotted by many big stars in the entertainment circle, but it had become known by everyone. This was also Chen Guang's initial goal. The more people who resist it, the more people would know. It was better to be boycotted than ignored. Everyone was curious. Regardless of whether it was those who had participated in the boycott, or those who had been indifferent, They all wanted to know what this movie that had been scolded like. The result was that at 1 p.m., the movie's reputation had completely achieved the effect of fragrance wafting thousands of miles. It wasn't that there were no people to nitpick, and it wasn't that there were no thorns to nitpick. In the movie, the scenes in which Chen Guang did not participate in were indeed not amazing, and there were even a lot of flaws. But she couldn't resist the fact that her beauty covered all her ugliness, and she couldn't resist the fact that everyone applauded her. If you disagreed, you either had a wrong aesthetic view, or your worldview was skewed. When others searched online, they would see that the movie had a Rotten Tomatoes freshness rating of almost 100%, and a full score of 10 on IMDb. Even if they really saw the bad parts, in the eyes of the world, the flaws could not obscure the beauty, because no one could really deny the incredible acting skills that Chen Guang had shown in the movie. Even though they knew that it was a scene through the screen, the audience still felt like they were in the scene. It was completely different from the experience of watching a normal movie. When watching women, even though they knew that there was nothing amazing about the plot, they still could not help but be completely immersed in the whole process of watching the movie. It was as if they had become the male lead, the stubborn retired boxing champion, who would never admit defeat. Every time he was happy, the audience would giggle with him unconsciously. When he was angry, the audience would be furious. When he was knocked down in the boxing ring, the audience would also feel the pain in their cheeks. Because of the hasty production and the limitation of the theme and positioning of the movie, although women used an IMAX screen, it did not provide a 3D source, but an ordinary 2D movie. But even so, the experience that the whole movie brought to the audience was completely above that of a 3D movie. Although the audience was in the theater, their hearts were completely dragged into the movie by Chen Guang's world-class acting skills. It was as if they were standing in the world of the movie, watching the story happen and advance with their own eyes. The audience's mind was completely integrated with the characters in the movie. This was also the reason why many older academic giants and piano masters, who had more experience in life, looked a little absent-minded when they walked out of the theater. The more understanding and the more knowledgeable people were about life, the deeper they were immersed in the movie, and the deeper their feelings were, the harder it was to get out of the movie when they walked out of the theater. At 1:30 p.m., when the number of ratings on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes reached 20,000, the rating was still as high as 9, and the freshness was still as high as 99.9%. The media, film critics, and even people in the European and American entertainment circles began to panic. Their curiosity stimulated them crazily. Even in their dreams, they wanted to go in and see what kind of incredible movie this was. But their rationality kept waking them up. This was Chen Guang's conspiracy, a complete scam. If I go into the theater, I will be falling into his trap, and I will provide him with the box office. I can't go. I absolutely can't go by myself. Even if I encourage the people around me to go, I can't go. When Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang saw such an explosion of praise on the internet, they finally understood why Chen Guang was so crazy and confident. Boss Chen was so awesome. Indeed, he planned to show off in a tent and win the box office from thousands of miles away. With this attendance rate and this reputation, would those damn theaters dare to not increase the number of showtimes? You are going against the US dollar, against the working people of the democratic country. You guys are triangular heads that block the wheel of history with your arms. You will only be crushed into pieces by the torrent of history. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the attendance data for the first show of the afternoon appeared. 100%. This time, it was really full. It was said that some people even asked for aisle seats, but this rude request was sternly rejected by the major theaters for safety reasons. The theaters that had taken the initiative to reduce the number of showtimes for women were also dumbfounded. They felt that the whole world had gone crazy. The word of mouth on the internet was still brewing, and it was even snowballing. More and more people could not resist the forced science or passive seduction of their friends, and took the initiative to go to the theater. Some people thought, I don't believe that such a movie exists in this world. I don't believe in heresy. I want to find out the truth. And then severely criticized Charlie. Some people thought, XX has always had a high taste in movies. He said that a good movie would definitely not be bad, and I have to watch it. Some people thought, I have had enough of the praise on the internet. I have to uphold justice. I have to see it with my own eyes. And then I will ruthlessly refute those guys. Some people went to the theater because of the power of their idol. Some went to the theater because of the controversy. Some went to the theater because of the reputation. And some went to the theater because they heard that the protagonist was a boxer. But in short, no matter how strange the reasons were, the final result was that all rivers returned to the sea. Now the outside of the theater was filled with angry people, because they had discovered an extremely embarrassing thing. A movie that had just been released was actually not able to buy tickets. They went to check the number of showtimes on the internet, and only then did they find out that this popular movie actually had a ridiculously low number of showtimes of 0.67%. This was simply ridiculous. You bunch of D*MN bastards. You have 10 screening halls, but only one screening hall plays this movie every 4 hours? Are you kidding me? You're wasting our lives. Do you want us to queue for 3 hours to wait for it? I want to lodge a complaint against you. This is a crime. We demand that you immediately increase the number of showtimes and apologize to us. Women has just been released, and now so many of us want to watch it. But your theater actually has no showtimes at all? A movie is a movie, and this is politics. We want a movie, not politics. Protest. This was the good thing about the land of the free. If they were unhappy with something, they could protest at any time. The objects of protest could range from Trump's arrogant hairstyle to McDonald's hamburgers becoming smaller. There was nothing in the world that they could not protest against. Now the unlucky ones were the movie theaters. There were too many people queuing outside, and people with the same demands were gathered together. It was simply a natural hotbed of protest. The theaters that originally had plans to show women were still fine. After an emergency discussion, they immediately distributed the digital source to each screening hall and adjusted the showtimes at the last minute. Only then did they solve the urgent problem. The theaters that had previously cut the showtimes to 0, returned the digital source, or had no plans to show the movie at all were in trouble. They had no choice but to call Tang Zhao's distribution company and request to renegotiate the showtimes. After some internal discussion within the Tianguang group, they asked for Chen Guang's approval. He slapped his thigh and gave a clear answer. I'm sorry, you used to be indifferent to me, but now I'm out of your league. Showtime subsidy. I'm sorry, I don't have a single cent share of the box office. You want us to take 30% of the industry rules? I'm sorry, when you broke the contract, we re-evaluated your company's credibility and put you on the list of companies that broke their promises. Now that we want to cooperate again, your share of the box office is only 60%, and we want 40%. I'm sorry, our company invested too much in the initial publicity, but we didn't get the showtimes we expected. Now we need to increase the share to make up for the loss of publicity expenses. That's right, we want 40%. What? Why don't we rob them? Alright, it's not wrong if you want to understand it that way. We are indeed robbing, so do you want it? Are you willing to be robbed by us? How could the major movie theaters not be willing? They couldn't, or else they would be torn down. Moreover, when the monetary loss was within an acceptable range, the movie theater companies would talk about justice with the European and American filmmakers. Now, the monetary loss was already immeasurable, and the occupancy rate of other movies was already 100%. We can't talk about justice anymore. This is the time to do business. In addition, now that all the movie theaters in the US were showing women, if we were to offend them, we would offend all the filmmakers. Then I'm sorry, but you still have to rely on us to make a living. Do you have the ability to not show the movie in the US? Of course not. So it doesn't matter if we offend you. When it was past 8 p.m., the showtimes for women officially turned the tables, instantly rising to 36.8%. Chen Guang had accidentally created another historical record, the strongest rescheduling rate in history. After 1 day of screening, it went from 0.67% to 36. 8%. An increase of as much as 55 times. What was even more shocking was that even though the showtimes were already at the level of the top A-list blockbusters, the occupancy rate was still maintained at a crazy 90% and above. On this evening, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that everyone turned out for this movie. Chapter 1081. Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang hugged each other tightly in the office, almost crying tears of joy. Damn, it feels so good to act cool with the boss. We actually managed such a godly film. We really reached the peak of life by lying down. It seems that it won't take long for us to be promoted, get a raise, become general managers, become CEOs, marry beautiful women, and reach the peak of life. I'm a little excited just thinking about it. Wait, now that we're the senior managers of a company with a market value of tens of billions, ordinary CEOs really can't catch up to us? Then the problem is, where are our beautiful women? Damn, they've all been picked up by President Chen. Forget it. No matter what, with everyone's cooperation on the second day of the film's release, it can be said that we've hit the bottom and made a comeback all over the world. Congratulations. Alright, come to think of it, it seems that we haven't actually done anything. We've been working together without doing anything? The two of them thought about it carefully. Indeed, it was the most frightening thing when the atmosphere suddenly became quiet. After the crazy investment in advertising in the early stages, although there was still nearly $20 million left in the budget for the Olympic Games, that was all for the PY deals with the judges after the release of the film, as well as for the obvious online vote solicitation. The budget for the film's box office and reputation had all been spent. The contracts had been signed, and the supporting publicity plans were all in hand. The only thing left was to push forward step by step throughout the film's release cycle. So in fact, today's fourfold counterattack in terms of attendance, scheduling, box office, and reputation seemed to have nothing to do with them at all. It was all the miracle brought about by the boss's godly acting skills in the film. The boss is indeed the boss. He's right, a film is a film. The only thing that could really determine the final height of a film was the artistic value and standard shown in the film. These things were all-encompassing. The plot, narrative rhythm, and shooting effect of the film were one aspect, but the acting skills of the actors were another. As long as it could bring the audience a pleasant and unforgettable viewing experience, whether it was an artistic film or a commercial blockbuster, as long as it could make the audience feel intoxicated and memorable, it was a good film. Women was lagging behind in all other aspects, but with the boss's acting skills, he managed to pull it all back. As long as he was there, the audience didn't need special effects, didn't even care about the story, and could even tolerate English subtitles with Chinese pronunciation. He could even tolerate the scenes that he had shot before he joined the crew, muddling through. In the face of such a boss, other than kneeling down, we can only ask for a bonus, right? On the other hand, in China, after the collapse on the opening day, the real evaluation of the movie took a night to brew. The next morning, especially after 8 o'clock, the real quality of the movie was gradually revealed. Gold will always shine. What's more, the reputation of women had exploded in North America, and it had even traveled overseas to support China. Those who followed the trend of boycotting women yesterday, after one night, found that their boycotting had become stupid actions of worshipping foreign things. They were laughed at by the people around them. You don't support your own countrymen, and when the foreigners scold you, you believe them and start boycotting Chinese movies. Why don't you go wag your tail at your daddy rice? It's a pity that others don't like you. It's a pity that even your American daddy is praising heroin. So the question is, as a Rice Party member, what should you do now? Do you want to hang yourself? Or do you want me to hang you? Or do you want to go to the cinema and buy a ticket, then come out and write a review of more than 1,000 words? Facing this situation, the people who boycotted women and made it to the third place in the domestic box office on the opening day could only express their embarrassment. Damn it, the Hollywood bigwigs are not helping us. We boycotted Chengguang in China to support you. Now that your backyard is on fire, how can we cooperate with the Taijun? Oh no, cooperate with our international friends to carry out work? XX, I don't want to criticize you, but write a review and come to my office tomorrow. I've seen your Weibo. Although we are not a state-owned enterprise, we are still under the red flag. There is something wrong with your awareness. XX, let's break up. You are a shameful Rice Party member. I look down on you. XX, people of different principles cannot make plans together. From now on, we are no longer friends. You walk your financial path, and I will cross the social bridge. XX, hurry up and buy 2 tickets for me and my wife. You pay the bill. We can still be friends. In China, there were all kinds of scenes like this. The good young people who hated Chen Guang had suffered the most painful blow in history. Whether it was financially or mentally, it could be said to be a double blow. What was worse was that the stubborn young people suffered a third, more tragic blow. I have no choice. I can't control my Chilean arm when facing people like you who have lost your mind. What? You mean medical expenses? That's impossible. Outside, the sound of gongs and drums could be heard. However, the initiator of all this, Chen Guang, was still writing in the hotel with a calm face. There was no way. The old man's world-class acting skills were given by the heavenly Holy Grail. It was impossible for him not to be so good. I want to be weaker, but I can't do it. While he was showing off, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was Zhuo Jingxi. Chen Guang was a little puzzled. It was 9 o'clock in the morning in China. Is teacher Zhuo calling to congratulate me on my upcoming great success? He happily picked up the phone, but after only a few words, his mood turned from sunny to gloomy. He felt a slight pain in the ass. About 15 minutes later, Chen Guang rubbed his eyebrows and hung up the phone. Zhuo Jingxi did not know about him and women at all. Instead, she threw 2 pieces of bad news to Chen Guang. For the past few days, Zhuo Jingxi had been in Gokyo University's photocatalyst laboratory, trying to synthesize the 5 God-level formulas. She tried to use the existing resources of Gokyo University to synthesize the 5 God-level formulas. However, after several consecutive days of feasibility verification, Zhuo Jingxi sadly discovered that according to the existing conditions of Gokyo University's photocatalyst laboratory, even if all the strong resources of several other research institutes in China that were engaged in related research were integrated, there was still a huge gap in equipment and a serious lack of raw materials. In short, Zhuo Jingxi concluded that even if domestic scientific research progressed by leaps and bounds, it was impossible to synthesize the 5 God-level formulas in at least 1 to 2 years. Another piece of bad news was already within Chen Guang's expectations. Prince, whose laboratory results had been stolen, would not turn a blind eye to Zhuo Jingxi. 2 days after she settled down at Gokyo University, Prince's lawyer's letter followed. Prince's laboratory formally filed a lawsuit, accusing Zhuo Jingxi of stealing laboratory property, suspected of espionage, stealing trade secrets, and many other crimes. In fact, similar things have been common in recent years. Almost every time a Chinese executive from a foreign research institute returned to China, they would often bring a pile of lawsuits with them. However, the Chinese executives usually turned a blind eye to this, putting on an attitude of, "You can sue me. I'll pretend I didn't see anything. Did you really think that we sent out Chinese talents to work for you for free? Didn't we want these high-end talents to bring back important technology? When these people returned to China, we couldn't wait to treat them like treasures. And you still want to sue me? You can sue me all you want, and I'll admit defeat." Of course, these high-level confrontations can't be resolved simply by slamming the table and acting shamelessly. We won't blatantly shield you. We respect the demands of your country's companies and intellectual property rights more. However, lawsuits involving intellectual property rights are always protracted battles. As for us, let's just drag it out for the time being. However, the situation was a little different this time. Prince had found a strong ally in China, led by a local tyrant. With the help of Tiansong Water Group, this lawsuit, which would have been downplayed or even completely ignored, inexplicably caused an earthquake in the domestic science and technology circle. In just 2 or 3 days, Almost everyone in the domestic scientific research circle knew about this. There were many overt and covert statements and rumors. Even administrative agencies like Wujing University and the Science and Technology Department of Sichuan Province felt tremendous pressure. Prince's lawsuit could cause such a sensational effect, all because of the agreement reached with Tiansong Water Group after they reached an agreement with it. Tiansong Water Group almost became Prince's spokesperson in China, mobilizing all kinds of relationships, and at the same time putting pressure on Shaoguang Environmental Protection, Tangshan Industrial Wastewater Treatment Plant, Gokyo University, and the domestic science and technology community. The main purpose was also simple. Song Mingyuan felt that he had seen through Chen Guang's trump card and believed that Chen Guang dared to continue to operate Tangshan Industrial Plant because of the photocatalyst technology brought back by Zhuo Jingxi from the United States. He made such a huge noise, but he did not really intend to send Zhuo Jingxi to court because of this matter. His main purpose was nothing more than to shock the tiger and strangle the possibility of Chen Guang using Prince's photocatalyst technology in Tangshan Industrial Plant in advance. The strength of Prince's international monopoly laboratory and Tiansong Water Group, the leading enterprise in China, could not be underestimated. For a time, Gokyo University faced tremendous pressure and was accused of harboring. This pressure came from the academic community, the business community, and a considerable degree of political power. On the other hand, the school was indecisive due to the incident of Chen Guang overthrowing Su Lijing in a fit of rage for Zhuo Jingxi. It was definitely not possible to hand Zhuo Jingxi over like this. God knew if Chen Guang would do what he did to Su Lijing again. Although no one was as dark as Su Lijing, who didn't have some shameful things in life, who hadn't been young and ignorant. What's more, the current Chen Guang was no longer what he used to be. With a wave of his hand, a privileged organization would investigate you thoroughly. God knew how big an earthquake would happen if he was provoked. So things were temporarily dragged on like this. People and forces from all sides were having headaches, but there was nothing they could do. Chapter 1082. On Zhuo Jingxi's side, she thought that since she could not achieve her goal in school, continuing to stay in the laboratory would only bring trouble to Professor Xu. She simply left the school for the time being and ran to her rented house outside the school in a daze. Hua Ling and Zhong Yu also did not want to go to other people's experimental groups. With Professor Xu's tacit approval, they temporarily put aside their work in the school's laboratory and remained as nominal graduate students. The matter of converting the 5 God-tier formulas from formulas into finished products had to be completely put on hold because of this. However, wanting her to return to the United States to plead guilty and compensate was also a pipe dream. Prince was also well aware of this. America did not have the ability to extradite such high-level talents from China. The fundamental purpose of Prince's lawsuit was nothing more than a show of force to prevent Zhuo Jingxi from completing the transformation of the results in China and turning Prince's patent into something that belonged to China. Let's not talk about international relations, but the concept of intellectual property protection must be respected. Prince's original purpose was only to force Zhuo Jingxi out of China's domestic scientific research institutions. That was all. Of course, no matter what the final result was, whether it was left unsettled or Zhuo Jingxi compensated for the losses, Zhuo Jingxi's global academic career should basically come to an end. From now on, unless China's domestic scientific research institutions quietly accepted her, she would no longer have any place in the world, especially in the field of photocatalysis. In addition, even if she could produce second-class scientific research results in China's domestic scientific research institutions, she would not have any qualifications to sign her name, let alone obtain fame and fortune. Otherwise, once the results with her name were taken to the world, it would be impossible to obtain any recognition and support. When she chose to leave the United States with Prince's samples, this outcome was destined. Originally, Prince had thought that this would be a long and drawn-out battle. He did not expect that he would be able to get the help of a major corporation in Huaxia. Zhuo Jingxi herself seemed to be exceptionally decisive. When she saw that the situation was not good, she immediately withdrew. Prince's goal was basically achieved, and Tiansong Water was even more satisfied. Song Mingyuan felt that he had completely cut off Chen Guang's escape route. No matter what he did now, after 4 months, if he could not get the support of the new photocatalyst technology, Chen Guang would know that he had no choice but to accept Song Mingyuan's offer. Letting go was the only way out. Chen Guang couldn't come up with any good ideas for the situation in the country. He sighed. Forget it. If it's too late, then so be it. Teacher Zhuo, you don't have to blame yourself. It's not your fault. If the domestic conditions can't be met, we don't have to force it. Hearing this, Zhuo Jingxi still blamed herself. She felt that she had failed to live up to Chen Guang's expectations. She sighed and did not reply. Chen Guang heard her disappointment and comforted her. Don't worry. There's still a long way to go. How about this from now on? You prepare your own laboratory. Even if it takes more time, we can slowly spend money to buy equipment and people. From now on, we can start preparing our own laboratory. This will save you from disputes over intellectual property rights when you use the school's laboratory to produce results. Zhuo Jingxi's eyes lit up, but she quickly sighed. But this will cost a lot of money, right? Besides, it definitely won't make it in time for the Tangshan factory. Chen Guang said carelessly. Don't worry, money is not a problem. You haven't seen the recent news, right? There's no harm in telling you. I'm going to make a fortune soon. Let's not talk about an investment of 1 or 200 million US dollars. Let's take it slow. We can even spend 1 billion. The 5 major formulas represent a market of hundreds of billions of US dollars. As long as we can produce results, any investment is worth it. As for the Tangshan factory, if it's gone, then so be it. It's less than 200 million. We can afford to lose it. Chen Guang silently calculated the North American box office that women might get. Based on the current situation, he was really confident. In 5 hours at the latest, he would be able to see the box office statistics for the second day of release. Without 20 to 30 million US dollars, he would be letting down his 33.8% screening rate and more than 90% attendance rate. After deducting the theater division's share, the initial 40 million US dollars of advertising budget would be fully recovered in 5 days at the latest. All that was left was profit. North American movies could be released for up to 3 months. Women had a chance of hitting $1 billion US dollars at the box office. By then, his Tianguang group would have more than 300 million US dollars. It was just enough to cover the cost of building a prince-level laboratory that Zhuo Jingxi had previously estimated. This was not even considering the domestic box office profits. This meant that he didn't need to look for financing at all. He could easily build a laboratory that belonged to Zhuo Jingxi and himself. As for the share of the distribution company that Tang Xiao opened? Sorry, no. Sometimes I'm a miser too. Okay, since you think so, I won't say anything else. Zhuo Jingxi was still a little unwilling, but she didn't insist on it. She chatted with Chen Guang for a bit more and hung up. Chen Guang also calmed himself down and continued to write. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the North American box office statistics for the second day of release were released. It was a terrifying number that could be described as historical. Only then did Chen Guang realize that he had underestimated the explosive power of the North American box office. He had only estimated the situation of women based on the box office statistics of other people. But he had forgotten a very important problem. In the past, although the box office champion of the day also had a screening rate of over 30%, the attendance rate usually didn't exceed 60%. However, today's heroine only had a screening rate of 33.8% at night, but it still had an attendance rate of over 90%. With just these 2 peak screenings at night, women had completed a magnificent turnaround and successfully achieved a perfect counterattack on the second day of release, reaching the top in one fell swoop. Chen Guang took a deep breath and felt refreshed. Since the box office had reached the top, the second and third volumes of World School of Performing Arts would be officially released tomorrow. It would officially be the first shot that he had made at the Olympic Games. Ever since he came to Los Angeles, the old man had been low-key for too long. It was said that a kind person would be bullied, and a kind horse would be ridden. The old man was in a foreign country, and based on the principle of being kind to others, he didn't fight back even when he was scolded. Did you think that he was easy to bully? You guess what I was thinking. So you started to cause all kinds of trouble. Yes, my actions were Sima Zhao's intention, and everyone knew it. But I didn't say it out loud, did I? Did I eat your rice? You mess with me on the screening schedule. Mess with me on the premiere guest. Even called on your fans and audience to boycott me? Did you really think that I was a sick cat if I didn't show my power? Damn it. It's time to show my real skills, and let you see how I aim for the Oscars. Tomorrow, I will openly tell all of you that I, Chen Guang, am indeed aiming for the Oscars. I am going to open the next era of the performing arts. Are you not convinced? Continue to boycott me? Can you boycott me? You are just ants in front of the wheel of history. Chen Guang reverted to his old ways and muttered all kinds of things in his heart. In fact, he had completely forgotten one thing. Although he did not openly admit that he was aiming for the Oscars, he really did not have the ability to be low-key. Finally, at 11:30 a.m. on the third day of the screening, Chen Guang let out a long sigh of relief and threw the keyboard away. After 48 hours of fighting without rest, he finally finished the second volume of World School. He waved his hand and called Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu over. He threw the USB flash drive containing the script to them and said, "Get to work, guys." At 1 p.m., the box office of the second day of screening in China was released. Women finally made a comeback and reached the top, with a box office of 80 million renminbi. At the same time, the box office statistics for the morning screening in North America were released. The screening rate increased again, reaching 41.2%, and the occupancy rate was still as high as 91.5%. At 3 p.m., the freshly printed first volume and the second volume of World School were out from nearly 100 large printing houses in nearly 50 cities in America and sent to countless newsstands, bookstores, and Amazon's warehouses. Originally, Chen Guang wanted to provide the electronic version for free, but he was stopped by Fang Tianyu in the end. At that time, Fang Tianyu said, "Boss, don't be anxious. There are still 3 months until the Oscars. Just sell the book. People who want to read it will be there sooner or later. You don't have to shoot yourself in the foot. You can't go against money." Chen Guang agreed. Now that the box office had turned the tide, and there were still 3 months to build up the reputation, there was really no need to burn money. All right, it's decided. How many copies did you print? 500,000 copies. Okay, that's settled then. Tell the printing houses to prepare more copies. I personally think that the total sales in North America can reach 5 million copies. What about in China? Only 100,000 copies. Boss, you know that piracy in China is a bit of a problem, especially on the internet. Chen Guang waved his hand. You worry too much, Fang Tianyu. This is called a reference book, but I write it in a simple way, suitable for all ages. It's a reference book that everyone can read. Acting skills are not only useful for actors, but they are also useful in real life. In addition, you have to consider my popularity in China. I'm afraid my fans will buy more than 1 million copies. Of course, just considering the fan economy is still a small group. What I really need is a wider audience. Also, what others read on their phones and computers are the kind of boring online novels that I read all day long. A famous book like World School needs to be chewed on slowly and carefully. You even need to take notes while reading. If you don't buy a paper copy and hold it in your hand, you won't be able to read it. When Chen Guang said this, his face exuded the brilliance of a great man. Fang Tianyu didn't even notice that he had become a Fang Tianyu. Our boss has become a cultured man? Then boss, how many copies should we print in China? Chen Guang waved his hand. 10 million copies for the first print. Damn boss, do you have to be so arrogant? Chen Guang flipped his hair. I can't help it. I'm born to be arrogant. You go ahead with your work. I'm going to take a walk. There's nothing for me to do for now. Let me tell you, 10 million copies is just a small target. Well, forget it. It's too arrogant to call the first print of 10 million copies a small target. Let's call it a medium target. Let's go. After saying that, he turned around and left the temporary office of the Tianguang Group with his head held high. Now he felt very secure and couldn't find any reason to fail. A few minutes after Chen Guang left, Lu Xiaoyang came in from outside. Fang Tianyu pulled him over. Lu Xiaoyang, boss just said that we need to print 10 million copies in China? I feel like it's a failure. Lu Xiaoyang rolled his eyes at him. Think about your past. Think about our past. Did the boss make any mistakes in his decisions? Why is your Fang Tianyu still unwilling to be enlightened? Poor Fang Tianyu was laughed at by Lu Xiaoyang again. He muttered to himself as he went back to his office and made a call to China. After hanging up, he looked at the electronic version of Chen Guang's manuscript in front of him and murmured to himself, "Can we really sell 10 million copies of the English version in China? We deserve it." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.